Third part. Chapter 41, Reality, Encounter a monster before arriving at Cloud City. Because the main road to Yuncheng has been blocked, the buses directly leading to the Yuncheng resort area have been suspended, and taxis cannot drive directly in. So Feng Shi and Xiao Fan could only take a car to a city near Yuncheng, and then walk there by themselves. Originally, Xiao Fan could take a special car to enter the blockade with other colleagues who supported Yuncheng, but he chose to leave early in order to act with Feng Shi, so naturally he did not have this convenience. After arriving at the place, he will report to the local official extraordinary agency. Of course, there is no need to go into too much detail about the rush, because Hangzhou is not very far from Yuncheng. Buy a ticket early and set off by car. It only takes 3 hours to reach a small county near Yuncheng. That afternoon, the two of them, dressed in simple clothes, walked up the mountain road, preparing to take a shortcut through the forest wilderness on the edge of the small county town and enter the Lianyan Mountain Resort. With the extraordinary physical fitness and leg strength, it is not difficult to cross such a small amount of wilderness. They estimated that it would take less than an hour to reach the destination. The location they chose was also on the edge of the mountain forest, not a very dangerous area. Therefore, before entering the mountain, both of them were full of confidence and did not take this journey seriously. However, only 10 minutes after entering the mountain, reality slapped me in the face. Huh? Why is it foggy? The two were traveling on the mountain road at a leisurely pace, but soon they discovered that a trace of mist began to appear between the sparse trees. Feng Shi frowned, immediately stretched out her hand to stop Xiao Fan, and reminded. Something's wrong. There's something going on. Be careful. His strength is much stronger than Xiao Fan, and his perception ability is naturally stronger. He now felt that there was a trace of extraordinary fluctuations in these forest fogs, which should not be a naturally occurring phenomenon. When Xiao Fan heard this, his expression immediately became solemn. Without saying a word, he grabbed a modern long sword with a black sheath from the void next to him, and was secretly on guard. Feng Shi took a look and found that the shape of the knife was a bit like a Yenling knife, except that the scabbard, handle and guard were all made of modern materials, and it looked quite handsome. The key is that the material seems to contain some extraordinary metal, and it is not as simple as a simple ordinary weapon. He knew that this should be the standard weapon provided by the Apocalypse Administration, and it was considered one of the benefits of joining the officialdom. He doesn't envy it either. He won't be short of things like extraordinary weapons in the future. Now he can just get some random things to get enough. He symbolically took out a nunchaku from his waist and held it in his hand, also entering a state of alert. Xiao Fan was stunned for a moment and couldn't help complaining, "Where did you get these from? 4-dimensional underwear?" Feng Shi swung her nunchucks and hit him to get him to concentrate, and said casually. "Do you understand the art of hiding swords? As a weapons master, it is reasonable for me to take out a weapon casually on my body, right?" Xiao Fan rolled his eyes and thought, "I believe you." However, they didn't ask any further, because the surrounding fog began to roll and roll, becoming thicker and thicker at a speed visible to the naked eye, and even covering them. Feng Shi did not dare to neglect and said in a deep voice, "Back off." However, a strange roar suddenly sounded from behind, and then something rushed towards them, whipping up airflow and roaring. The two noticed it and turned back to face the enemy at the same time. The nunchaku in Feng Shi's hand left a golden shadow, and he struck out the moment he turned around. Xiao Fan immediately stretched out his free palm behind him. The space in front of his palm was distorted, and the shape of a shield appeared faintly, like an invisible twisted vortex. Bang! Feng Shi's nunchaku hit something hard and bounced high. Golden light waves flashed past, and a huge monster appeared from nowhere, its head tilted and its body staggered by the stick. However, the sharp claw it wielded during the sneak attack did not change its trajectory. It still hit the two of them fiercely, but it came into contact with the invisible shield created by Xiao Fan first. The next moment, the thick monster arm disappeared out of thin air for a moment. When it reappeared, it had been moved to the other side of the shield. It missed them and hit a tree on the side with force, directly breaking the small tree. In that scene, it was as if the monster's movement suddenly dropped the frame. The claws that were clearly about to hit suddenly flashed past the two bodies and missed. This scene was very strange, but Feng Shi, who had seen it before, did not hesitate at all. Taking advantage of its unbalanced movements, he flew up and hit the monster hard with his nunchucks. This time, he also used Qi winding, which was very powerful. Increase. The nunchucks swung wildly in his hands and smashed down like a violent storm. The monster was beaten back repeatedly, but Feng Shi still pursued it, looking like it was taking advantage of its illness to kill it. However, this monster looks ugly, but it is also really rough-skinned and fleshy. The holes all over its body spurt out a thick gray mist while letting out strange roars. As if hearing its order, monsters quickly sprang out from the surrounding fog and pounced on the two of them. Most of them are apes that are shorter and thinner than adults. Their pupils are gray, and their skin and hair are also dyed gray. They have irregular sarcomas and tentacles growing everywhere on their bodies. They walk upright like humans and have long hair on their hands. Sharp claws. A small part of them are gray-skinned wild boars that are much larger than domestic pigs. They have long tusks and many twisting tentacles sprouting from their abdomens. They are running rampant and fierce. There were more than a dozen of the two monsters in total. Xiao Fan screamed in fright and disappeared instantly, teleporting to a big tree not far away. F***K. He actually summons mobs? Is this guy still a mini-boss? While complaining, he stretched out his palm, condensed a small black hole-like energy ball, and threw it directly. The energy ball disappeared out of thin air the moment he let go, then appeared where he originally stood, detonating with a bang, causing a wave of space fluctuations to spread around. More than half of the dozen monsters were affected by the wave, and immediately flew upside down and fell to pieces. Seeing this, Feng Shi ignored these monsters and kept attacking with the nunchaku in one hand. With the other hand, he took out an oversized fixed wrench and hit it hard on the head. During the burst of anger, the invisible energy of anger and the violent energy of fighting spirit are twinned together, raising the power of the warrior's professional skill fury strike to a higher level. With this blow, the monster's huge head suddenly retracted into its neck, and its eyes, ears, nose, and mouth spurted out a stream of turbid liquid at the same time. It was unclear whether it was blood or brain matter. Anyway, after the blow, its huge and strong body retreated continuously, and then fell to the ground weakly, unable to get up again. Feng Shi immediately felt a lot of extraordinary energy entering his body, which surprised him. This amount is unexpectedly large. Chapter 42, Reality, Mist-Stained Demon. Don't be so rampant, evildoer. Eat me quickly and slash through the air. Shura with one sword. Create the world. Fight with a fist. Xiao Fan screamed strangely, jumped down from the tree, the long knife in his hand glowed with a black edge, cleared the surrounding space, and cut a mutant wild boar with rough skin and thick flesh in half. Then he rolled around on the ground, stood up and slashed with another knife, cutting off a gray-haired mutant ape in half. Feng Shi looked back. Although the name of the move he yelled made people want to complain, but one thing is that the long knife covered with space supernatural energy does very high damage. It was so easy to split the solid body of the mutated monster, which was not easy even for him to do now. It can only be said that the space power is really unreasonable. While Feng Shi was sighing, she didn't stand on the sidelines to watch. She immediately joined the battlefield as soon as she made a wrong step. A nunchaku in one hand and a big wrench in the other kept hitting these mutated monsters. Although it can't be beaten into a pulp, the true energy plus the fighting spirit plus a percentage increase in damage are basically one at a time. Soon, more than a dozen mutated monsters were killed by the two of them. These mutated creatures seem to be the younger ones created by the abyss monster that can only turn invisible and spray. They have no sanity. After the boss dies, they can only attack without thinking. They will not run away if they are defeated, so it is not too troublesome to solve them. Otherwise, if they saw that the situation was bad and scattered and ran away, it would be really troublesome for Feng Shi to chase them in this wild mountain forest. Unfortunately, the amount of extraordinary essence obtained by killing these mutated monsters is very little. The amount provided by each one is less than one-third of the low-level shadow monster that Feng Shi killed in the Longshan Villa area last time, which is far less than their boss is generous. Feng Shi found it boring, just better than nothing, but Xiao Fan, who had killed an extraordinary creature for the first time, was very satisfied. After the kill, he shouted excitedly. I feel that huge power enters my body one after another. As long as I digest them, my strength will increase by leaps and bounds. Is this the power of extraordinary source matter? Now I understand why everyone is so keen on killing monsters. Feng Shi looked at him with a strange look on her face and almost decided to go to day school. She couldn't help but laugh. Huge power? Rapid progress? In this G world, look at how hungry the children are. Feng Shi, who had eaten a lot, decided not to ridicule him and changed the subject. Don't make any remarks for now. Aren't you doing something wrong? You can actually encounter a monster team in such a peripheral place. It seems that the number of monsters near Yuncheng is much more than we imagined. The situation in Yuncheng is also much more severe than what the official intelligence says. Xiao Fan also reacted, frowned and said, yes. If we don't walk in from here, if these monsters continue to walk outside, they will soon enter the small county town just now. Wouldn't something big happen? Feng Shi said, that's not a big deal. There should be officially arranged supernatural guards in the county, but... Before he finished speaking, he suddenly discovered something and turned his head to look deep into the forest. Seeing his appearance, Xiao Fan realized something and followed his gaze and turned to look. Soon, several figures rushed from the mountain forest, appeared in front of the two people, and vaguely surrounded them. If you look closely, you will see that there are 5 young men in black uniforms. Each one of them has extraordinary fluctuations, and they are clearly extraordinary. After they arrived, they glanced at the monster corpses on the ground, and then their eyes fell on the standard long knife in Xiao Fan's hand. Their eyes narrowed slightly and they asked. We are combatants of the extraordinary secret service of Cloud City. Who are you? Did you kill these monsters? Xiao Fan actually recognized their identities from the uniforms they wore. When he saw them announcing their homes, he quickly explained. Hello, comrade, I am a member of the Hangzhou Apocalypse Bureau, and I have come to support the Lianyan Mountain Secret Realm battlefield in Yuncheng. This is my friend, who is also a transcendent. He accepted the bounty mission and responded to the official call to come to support. The leading team leader did not doubt his identity, but asked again, it turns out to be a comrade from the Yuncheng Apocalypse Bureau, but won't the next batch of aid personnel from Hangzhou arrive only tomorrow? Why did you come here first? Xiao Fan laughed, I asked for leave and came here in advance with a friend. This friend of mine has not joined the official government and is just an independent person. He cannot take our bureau's special car. I am afraid that no one will look after him on the road alone. After listening to this, several people secretly complained in their hearts, you are quite loyal. But seeing the ages of the two of them, they didn't find it strange. At first glance, he looked like a young boy who had just finished the exam. He was at the age where he wanted to do everything with his good buddies, so it was normal for him to do this kind of thing. There is a high probability that the people in the Apocalypse Bureau are Apocalypse. The official restrictions on them are much looser than on the official extraordinary people of other extraordinary organizations. This little thing is completely fine. I see, I understand. Then please give me your ID to confirm, and we will show you the way. Xiao Fan and Feng Shi each took out their work certificates and Dragon Kingdom Extraordinary Registration certificates and showed them to them. After confirming, they tidied up the battlefield together, and then headed to Yuncheng with Feng Shi. The two parties communicated for a while on the way, and Feng Shi and Xiao Fan learned the true situation of the secret realm in Lianyan Mountain Scenic Area. It turns out that the secret realm expanded again last night and released more abyss monsters, the kind of monsters that Feng Shi just killed that could become invisible and create fog. Officially named it Fog Stain Demon. They have different shapes, but they all have 3 exclusive abilities: invisibility, creating fog, and transforming animals in the real world into mutated monsters. Because the secret realm expanded suddenly last night and too many monsters escaped, the official blockade was broken in many places, allowing many monsters to escape into the forest and mountains. So starting from last night, most of the extraordinary people were dispatched urgently. While expanding and strengthening the blockade, they have been searching for monsters in the nearby mountains and trying to deal with these escaping fish as much as possible. The fog-stained demon killed by Feng Shi was discovered by them first, but they lost it during the tracking process, and happened to be met by Feng Shi and the others, which was a coincidence. However, Feng Shi felt that it was not such a coincidence. This fog-stained demon should have been attracted by the breath of the two apocalypse, and it was not a chance encounter. The apocalypse is more loved by the monsters in the abyss and is more likely to attract the enthusiastic pursuit of the monsters. This is already common knowledge in the extraordinary circle. He and Xiao Fan, two extremely talented apocalypse, came together to control the monsters. It should be even more attractive. Chapter 43, Reality, the entrance to the secret realm. Just 2 levels. About an hour later, Feng Shi and the others followed the Yunqing team to the Lianyan Mountain Resort. After passing through the cover of the trees, the vision suddenly opened up, and a paradise-like world appeared in front of them. As you can see, a clean and well-equipped resort is located in a piece of unpolluted nature. Surrounded by undulating mountains, the peaks are endless, as if they are barriers carefully arranged by nature to isolate the hustle and bustle of the outside world. Entering the scenic spot, the first thing you see is the lush forest. The trees are tall and straight, with dense branches and leaves, blocking out the sky and the sun, keeping the place pleasantly cool even in midsummer. The air is still filled with the fragrance of soil and green plants. Taking a deep breath seems to wash away the dust in the soul. Walking along the winding path, you can see crystal clear streams gurgling through the mountains. The water is cool and thorough, and occasionally you can see a few fish swimming happily in the water. If you listen carefully, you can also hear the roar of the waterfall in the distance. Looking up into the distance, the blue sky and white clouds are almost connected to the top of the mountains, surrounded by gauze-like clouds and mist, just like a fairyland, which makes people feel a sense of otherworldliness. And as the sunlight changes, these clouds and mist become thicker or lighter, changing misty and adding a bit of mysterious beauty to the mountains and rivers. I have to say that the environment here is indeed beautiful, and it is a good place to escape the summer heat and maintain health. Especially because of the blockade and closure, the scenic spot is not overcrowded with tourists, and the tranquility and leisure brought about by the harmonious coexistence of people and nature has not been destroyed, which makes it even more rare. However, although the environment was good, Feng Shi's main attention fell on the mountains in the distance. He looked far into the distance and saw an anomaly hidden in the beautiful scenery. But deep in the mist-shrouded mountains, there were 2 obviously taller peaks, side by side, and the space between the 2 peaks was filled with extremely dense clouds and mist. This kind of clouds and mist looks much denser than the light clouds and mist wrapping around other mountain peaks, and it doesn't seem to be a concept at all. It was as if all the thick clouds had gathered between the 2 peaks, giving it a depressing feeling of black clouds looming over the city. The clouds and mist are still rolling irregularly, like the undulating waves in the sea. Feng Shi was fascinated for a moment, and gradually saw various clear visions emerging from the rolling sea of clouds. Hundreds of beasts are galloping, thousands of demons are roaring, and there are also ferocious and rough buildings. All kinds of strange phenomena are like mirages emerging from the sea of clouds in the sky, which shock people and even cause a little fear. Hey! Stop staring! Just when Feng Shi was entranced, the captain of the Yun City Extraordinary Team beside him suddenly shouted and woke him up from his daze. Only then did Feng Shi feel that something was wrong with her previous state. She frowned and asked, "What am I?" The squad leader explained, "That's where the secret realm of Lianyan Mountain is. If extraordinary people who haven't reached the holy realm stare at it for a long time, they will be bewitched by the visions transformed by the clouds of the secret realm. Not only will they be mentally traumatized, but they will also suffer mental trauma. There may also be unknown hidden dangers left. There have been extraordinary people who have fallen victim to this trick before. They were in a trance during the day and made frequent mistakes. They also sleepwalked at night. They broke into the secret realm alone in the middle of the night and never came back. Xiao Fan on the side was shocked after hearing this. He quickly withdrew his eyes that originally wanted to look far away. Damn. I thought it was quite spectacular just now, but it turned out to be so dangerous. Then if you stay here all the time, won't you even sleep? Safe? The team leader smiled again and said, actually, it's not that scary. After knowing this and being prepared, the possibility of being deceived is greatly reduced. As long as you don't deliberately keep staring, nothing will happen again. It's okay to look at it occasionally. I didn't know about it at first, but later I found out and it didn't cause any trouble. Also, newcomers like you who come here for the first time may be tricked, so we have also prepared special means to break this bewitching state. Recently, we have no one has ever had an accident because of this problem. Xiao Fan, oh, that's good. At this time, Fengxi noticed a certain message in his words and couldn't help but ask, what did you say about entering the Holy Realm just now? When the team leader heard this question, he was stunned for a moment, and then smiled and said, you don't even know this. It seems that you have only a short time to become a transcendent. The so-called Holy Realm is a more powerful realm of power that is superior to most extraordinary beings. As we all know, both the Apocalypse and the Awakened are collectively called extraordinary, which means people who transcend the ordinary. As the strength of extraordinary people gradually increases, some extraordinary people have achieved an essential breakthrough, and their strength has increased dramatically. The power far exceeds the category of ordinary extraordinary people. In order to make a distinction, we call it the realm of saints, that is, saints. To transcend the ordinary and become a saint, first transcend the ordinary and then become a saint. It's that simple. After listening to this, Fengxi immediately understood that this is the division of power levels in the real world. Xiao Fan on the side heard about this thing for the first time and became interested. He asked with bright eyes, Saint? Such a bluffing title? Are they rare? Are they very powerful? The team leader led the way and replied with a smile, of course it's rare. There are so many extraordinary people in the Dragon Kingdom, but not one of them can reach the Holy Realm. It's not a matter of whether they are strong or not, but it's a matter of life level that is different from others. It is said that saints have the ability to break mountains and mountains. The quality of extraordinary energy in their bodies is many times higher than that of ordinary extraordinary people. They can use their extraordinary abilities almost as they wish without fear of consumption, and their physical quality is not something that extraordinary people can touch. Even a senior transcendent with enhanced physical body would have a hard time matching the physical strength and basic qualities of a saintly warrior. To put it simply, the powerful saints have already crushed the extraordinary ones in terms of realm. No matter how experienced and talented the extraordinary person is, it is difficult to cause effective damage to the powerful saints. They are almost invincible. Only saints can fight against saints. After he finished speaking with some longing, he thought of something again and said with a smile. If you are curious, this is a good time to see the power of the saint. This time, many well-known saints in the country have been invited to conquer the secret realm. In the past 2 days, several powerful saints have arrived. 2 Apocalypse Emperors have also arrived with their confidant saints. Now Lianyan Mountain, the scenic spot, can be said to be as strong as a cloud. Yesterday, I saw a saint take action near the entrance of the secret realm. Good guy, he raised his hand and slapped a group of escaped monsters to death. That momentum, that scene, was simply overwhelming and domineering. Xiao Fan was a little excited after hearing this. Before he could ask more questions, Fengxi asked again. Oh? So powerful? Then I wonder if there is a higher realm beyond the Holy Realm? The team leader was confused by Fengxi's question and shook his head casually. I really haven't heard of this. It should be gone. After all, the strong men who have entered the Holy Realm are already as powerful as patron saints. I really can't imagine it. What would a higher state be like? After Fengxi listened, her eyes gradually became weird. So, the extraordinary power system in the real world only has 2 realm levels? Why do these various characteristics of the Holy Realm sound similar to the awakening of the 30-level elemental power in the Sky Realm? So the extraordinary system in the real world has only reached the level of around level 30 in the Sky Realm until now? Chapter 44, Reality, go through the formalities and find a guide. Although she got a not very good guess, Fengxi didn't dwell on it for too long. Because he quickly found the reason himself and convinced himself. The extraordinary apocalypse in the real world has only appeared in the past 10 or 20 years. Of course, it cannot be compared with the sky world that has been developed for hundreds of years. No matter how miserable the life of the human race in the sky realm is, it is still a civilization that has resisted the frontal invasion of the endless abyss for hundreds of years. Its highest combat power has reached the god level and can compete head-on with the abyss demon gods. The real world has just started, so it is normal for the combat power level to be a little lower. Thinking about it from this perspective, it seems that it has been quite fast to develop to level 30 in the sky realm in the past 20 years. After all, the method of apocalypse in the real world is not to directly enable all people to be extraordinary, but to slowly select the apocalypse to awaken and let individuals lead the collective. It does not have a first-mover advantage in itself. In the early stage of development, it is definitely better than the sky world where all people are extraordinary from the beginning. The way is much slower. By comparing the information from the two worlds, he suddenly realized another advantage brought by the alien clone technique. That is, the speed of his strength improvement can ignore the environmental restrictions of the real world. It is like going to a later version of the game to fight monsters and upgrade quickly to become stronger, and then return to a game where all the players are just new to the game and kill them. Quartet, try your best to show off. He can already imagine a scenario that is likely to happen in the future. His level was quietly raised to level 50, 70, and 90, while the strongest person in the real world was still stuck at level 49 due to the low version. Under this premise, a series of pretentious slaps were triggered. The plot. Hiss. Just thinking about it makes me feel quite happy, just like many online novels he has read before. The more I think about this plugin, the more outrageous it becomes. I answered those words. I took from outside the world the power to deny the world. For a moment, even Fengxi, a man who thought he was so steady, couldn't help but feel an unspeakable sense of superiority. This feeling can probably only be understood by a cheater. It was also because of this comparison that Fengxi lost most of his interest in those so-called strong men who entered the Saint Realm. They're just a group of 30-something extraordinary beings. What's so surprising about them? Under the leadership of the local official Transcendent, Fengxi and Xiao Fan walked into the resort and found that the place was quite big. It was said to be a resort, but it was actually comparable to a small town. According to the team leader, ordinary people and staff in the town have now been evacuated to Cloud City at the foot of the mountain. Now only the extraordinary people and the official personnel responsible for serving them are left in the resort. All BNBs and hotels here have been requisitioned by the government. Extraordinary people who come here to support the secret battlefield can live for free, but they must first register with the local official, and official personnel will allocate temporary housing. At this point, Xiao Fan and Fengxi parted ways. He must first register his identity with the local official Supernormal Management Bureau, and the place where he lives is also an official star-rated hotel specially designed for his own people. Legal individual people like Fengxi need to register their identity with another agency and then be assigned housing, mainly various types of BNBs or affordable hotels. The two of them lived in different areas, so even if Xiao Fan wanted to spend money to live with Fengxi, he couldn't. Under special circumstances, you must abide by the rules. Hello, your procedures have been completed. This is the room key for your temporary room. Thank you again for your support. If you have any questions, you can come back here to consult and give us feedback. We will try our best to satisfy you. Request. Half an hour later, in the tourist reception center of the resort, a beautiful young lady with a delicate figure and a sweet smile wearing an official Dragon Kingdom work permit on her chest very politely handed over Fengxi's ID card and a room card key. When I came here, the service attitude was impeccable and made me feel refreshed. It can be seen that she is just an ordinary person, but because of her work, she knows about the existence of extraordinary beings. Thinking about it this way, it seems reasonable to have such a good attitude. Fengxi took the things, but did not leave immediately. Instead, she looked at her for a while and suddenly said, "I really have a question that I want to consult right now. What the young lady said just now was obviously just polite words. She didn't expect that the handsome boy in front of her would ask such a question, so she was stunned for a moment, and then she quickly asked with a gentle smile, "What's the problem, sir?" She took a look at the surrounding environment. There were not many people in the huge visitor center. There were more than a dozen reception counters in a row, and the one in front of him was just one of them. The staff at the other counters were all young and beautiful girls in uniforms, and there were also some individuals who were most likely extraordinary beings registering. However, there was no one in line around him, and no one behind him. So he asked directly, "Do you know where the two Emperor-type Apocalypse live?" She still remembers that one of the main purposes of her coming here is to help Xiao Fan get a quota for the day after tomorrow's awakening, so contacting Emperor Apocalypse is an essential process. Now that you have the opportunity, it doesn't hurt to ask. However, the young lady who heard this question laughed a little awkwardly, and her tone was slightly awkward. "Well, the two Emperors of Apocalypse are our official guests. We are not allowed to leak their information casually." She thought so she wasn't angry and said casually, "I'm sorry, it was me who was abrupt." Seeing that this handsome boy who really impressed her aesthetics and XP was about to leave with just a polite word, the young lady seemed to be a little confused, and suddenly she reminded her. "Sir, in fact, the residence of the two adults is not a secret here. You can find out by asking around outside. It's just that they have a distinguished status. The official security of them is very strict, and there are many strong people guarding them. Ordinary people, it's hard to see them. If you really want to see them, you can only find a chance by going to the first blockade battlefield near the entrance of the secret realm to participate in a frontline battle." After receiving her kind reminder, She's eyes moved, she remembered the information in her heart and sincerely thanked her. "Thank you for your reminder. It's very useful to me. I don't know how I can thank you." What she was thinking about was that workers like them who worked in the government should have some kind of performance appraisal, customer satisfaction and other scoring systems. Since she was willing to kindly remind herself, then he should reciprocate and give others a 5-star review. Any increase in performance is nothing more than a simple effort anyway. However, the young lady obviously misunderstood. Suddenly her face turned red and she laughed softly. "You're welcome. It's not easy for you when you are away from home. It would be my honor to help you. But if you insist on thanking you, I know there is a very good special barbecue restaurant nearby. Do you want to go together in the evening?" The first half of the sentence was okay, no problem, but the second half almost missed She's waist. He looked at her pretty face with a slight blush in astonishment, and he almost blurted out. "Bush, Jamie. Are you blushing like a bubble teapot? I just said polite words, and then you attacked me directly. Ahem, barbecue restaurant? Didn't it mean that ordinary people here have been evacuated? Are there still people doing business?" "Yes. Ordinary people are gone, but you must also entertain here, right? So we specially found a group of chefs to cook for you, provide high-standard meals, and make a lot of money on the way. Ahem, after all, there are still many places to eat delicious food in the resort. I have gained several pounds in the past few days." As the young lady spoke, she pinched her belly through her clothes in a cute way. She smiled and asked again, "Then do you still have to spend money to eat?" The young lady leaned forward and got close to She, put her hand on her mouth and laughed softly, "It's free. So I'll treat you tonight?" She smiled even happier and said righteously, "Okay." The young lady was also very happy. She immediately took out her phone and opened WeChat and handed the QR code to She. "Then add a friend so we can keep in touch easily. By the way, I get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Sister, you are so good at it." "Hey. That's what happens when you're too handsome. Girls always take the initiative, and there's nothing I can do about it." Normally I would ignore him, but considering that the other party is a local official and must know a lot of gossip, which is of great intelligence value, I can still reluctantly eat this barbecue. Chapter 45, Reality, Coincidence. After a small episode, there was no need for Shi to take the initiative to inquire. After adding him as a friend, the official receptionist sent him what Shi wanted to know. It includes the names and identities of the two imperial apocalypse, as well as the name of the hotel where they stayed. The official treatment of them was indeed particularly grand. The two emperor-type apocalypse and their followers each stayed in the two best hotels in the resort, which were reserved. The official also prepared special security personnel for them, even if they not required at all. Among the two emperor-type apocalypse, the official one is called Zhou Chongyuan. He is a veteran and strong man. He is said to be quite old. His apocalyptic power is called Wanyuan Jianglu, which can help ordinary people awaken the acquired powers of various water systems. Superpowers. The acquired awakeners who receive his help will awaken various kinds of supernatural water according to their own special preparation, such as extremely cold ice water, high-temperature boiling water, deep-sea heavy water, corrosive poison water, Styx blood water, etc., to name but a few. Although there is no elemental apocalypse who is born with the elemental incarnation body, the acquired awakeners he creates are also recognized as the most powerful elemental system. In addition, with the official support and no shortage of resources, his subordinates can be said to be as powerful as Yun, now in a high position in the Dragon Kingdom, is a real big shot in every sense. He and the subordinates he brought live in the Junlan Hotel, the most upscale hotel in the official residential area. It is really difficult for an individual like Feng Shi to get close. As for the emperor-type apocalypse among the people, it seems to be a woman named Shiringlan. She is also a veteran and strong person. She has been famous for a long time and must be quite old. She and her private extraordinary organization seem to have originally developed in the Sichuan area. This time, for some unknown reason, they agreed to come to Yuncheng in the southern part of the Dragon Kingdom to provide assistance. Her apocalyptic power is called the Four Seasons Flower God, which allows ordinary people to awaken a natal spirit flower from their own soul consciousness. When the spirit flower is activated, it can release its petals and leaves to defend against enemies, and it also has various psychic effects. For example, the coxcomb flower can breathe fire, the king flower can release poisonous gas, the water lotus can control water vapor, the chrysanthemum can release golden sword light, etc. She and the men she brought lived in the Four Seasons Hotel, the best location in the Sanren district, which was not far from the BNB where Feng Shi lived. However, there are also official security personnel guarding the place, and it is difficult for him to approach. This matter cannot be urgent, so I can only go to the frontline battlefield tomorrow to see if there is any chance. Feeling relieved, Feng Shi rested for a while in his BNB room. When the sky began to glow with dim light, he got up and went out to prepare for the appointment. But before that, he met Xiao Fan first. As soon as they met, Xiao Fan couldn't wait to report his gains. Madman, after completing the formalities, I asked my colleagues in Yuncheng about the information about the two apocalypse emperors. However, most of them were a little taboo and refused to say more. It should be because they are not familiar with me, but I somewhat asked. Some things, let's go, let's find a place to eat, I'll tell you slowly. Hearing this, Feng Shi reached out and grabbed him, smiling mysteriously. It's not because you're not familiar with me, it's because you're not handsome enough. Xiao Fan looked confused. What? Let's go have a barbecue and let you meet beautiful women. Because I had told the young lady in advance, even if Feng Shi brought one more person to the appointment, the young lady was not angry. She was still pleasantly surprised after hearing that Xiao Fan was an official transcendent. We are all young people, and Xiao Fan and Feng Shi are not the kind of people who look down on others because of their different status, so the three of them soon became familiar with each other. Eating barbecue and drinking wine, we soon became fair-weather friends. The young lady's name is Lin Yuyao. She looks pretty, but she drinks a lot. She has a cheerful personality. After drinking, she gradually develops into a social arrogant person. She is willing to say anything to her without asking her. Beating around the bush. Feng Shi felt that this young lady was very straightforward, mainly because she was really honest. After a few glasses of wine, she almost couldn't tell what style and color she was wearing today. From her, the two of them really got a lot of detailed information. For example, how many famous masters and saints are there in Lianyan Mountain now? For example, there are any taboos that need to be paid attention to during this period. There are also some emergencies caused by the secret realm since the scenic spot was closed, etc. This information may not be particularly important, but it does not mean that it is useless. Moreover, she also warned Feng Shi that many of the extraordinary beings who came this time came for the two Apocalypse Emperors. Their competition was great, and it would be better for an individual like Feng Shi to hide his identity and appearance. In order to avoid conflicts and enmity with other scattered people, and being approached by others to cause disaster in the future. She said that many San people do this. We often see San people wearing face masks and masks on the street, and she feels that this is indeed more cautious. This information made both Feng Shi and Xiao Fan feel that the barbecue was very rewarding. It's just that it was their first time to drink with a young lady. They were two extraordinary people who drank an ordinary girl. They didn't control the temper well and almost drank the young lady to pieces in the end. At this time, if they were bad guys with evil intentions, they might have staged a plot involving the 18th Forbidden City. Fortunately, they were both serious and good young people. They couldn't do any dirty things, so they just spent some effort to send her back. Dormitory, handed over to her colleagues and left. After coming out, Xiao Fan couldn't help but grabbed Feng Shi and praised and scolded. "Okay, you little lunatic. You're so cool for being able to hook up with a beautiful woman just by going out. Tell me, what dirty tricks did you use? What kind of extraordinary ability did you use? How can you go through a formality to make people bewildered? Yes? When I was drinking just now, the way she looked at you almost made me squirm." Feng Shi casually slapped his palm away and pretended to be cool while adjusting her cuffs. "What can I do?" She took the initiative to post here. "Is it illegal to be handsome? Shit. I'm not more handsome than you. Why don't any ladies like me? Brother, forget about deceiving others, don't deceive yourself too. Damn. Aren't you just better at pretending than me? These women are just superficial. Anyway, just take it easy, this time it's just for gathering information, I will never allow you to let my sister down. Don't worry about it. It's still early. I'm going to see Sister Yun. Will you go?" After Feng Shi finished speaking, Xiao Fan was stunned for a moment, and then said in surprise, "Sister Yun is also in Yuncheng?" Feng Shi rolled her eyes at him. "I remember I told you before that Sister Yun was transferred to Yuncheng to work, right? Hee. It seems that I forgot. Please contact her quickly and see where she is now. I haven't seen her for a long time. You still think it's strange when you mention it." Feng Shi ignored him, took out her cell phone, found Lu Yun's number, and called her directly. As soon as the call was connected, a gentle and intellectual voice with a hint of mischief came from. "Hey! Xiao Feng. Why do you have time to call me today?" Feng Shi's face turned dark and she said helplessly, "Sister Yun, are you off work?" "I just got off work. I've been very busy lately. I've been working overtime until now. I'm going home to cook. What's the reason you called me?" Feng Shi thought for a while and said bluntly, "Xiao Fan and I happened to be near Yuncheng. We were traveling around during the holidays recently and happened to stop by here. I thought I would come and see you." The person on the other end of the phone paused for a moment, and then asked strangely, "This is just the Lianyan Mountain scenic area, and it's blocked. Why did you come to Yuncheng for tourism?" Feng Shi didn't know how to explain it for a while, so she could only say, "The scenic spot is blocked, and Yuncheng is not blocked. We are just passing by, so you can just send us a location and come over. Of course, if it is inconvenient for you, forget it, we will try another day, it's okay to visit." The other party was silent for a while and said regretfully, "Xiao Feng, it's really inconvenient for me recently. I've been helping out in the scenic area these days. If you can't get in, let's do it next time." "Sister Yun is in the scenic spot now?" Feng Shi raised her eyelids, raised her head and looked at Xiao Fan, seeing a bit of surprise in each other's eyes. Then Feng Shi no longer concealed anything and said directly, "Are you in Lianyan Mountain scenic area? What a coincidence, we are actually in Lianyan Mountain now." Once these words are spoken, it is basically equivalent to an explicit statement. The voice on the phone was silent for a while before ringing again. "Are you two awake?" Chapter 46, Reality, the Timing. Both of you, are you awake? Lu Yun's words were already a needless answer. She suddenly felt that the world was really small, and she admitted. Yes, we woke up more than a month ago, so Sister Yun, are you also a transcendent? Lu Yun's tone was a little more excited, and she said with emotion. My situation is probably different from yours. I was not so lucky to be selected by Apocalypse. It was because of some fate that I got a place for awakening from the official hands. It has been more than 5 years since I awakened. Are you at the resort now? She replied, well, I just arrived today. Sister Yun, where are you? We will come find you. However, Lu Yun's answer was a little helpless. I am in a temporary military camp near the battlefield at the entrance to the secret realm. I am an official with medical ability and responsible for rescuing the wounded on the frontline battlefield. You cannot go back without authorization. Come and see me when you arrive at the frontline battlefield. Bar? After saying that, she immediately changed her words. No, you two newly awakened rookies should not come near the entrance of the secret realm. It is too dangerous for you. It is better to help clean up the escaped monsters from the outside. After we have completely controlled this secret realm, we will take care of ourselves. It's not too late to get together. It turns out that Sister Yun is a medical extraordinary person. She secretly noted this, but did not agree. He must be going to the first-line battlefield at the entrance to the secret realm. How many monsters are there just outside? What's more, if you want to get in touch with the 2 Apocalypse Emperors, you can only have the opportunity on the frontline battlefield. So he just said perfunctorily, in this case, there is really nothing we can do today. Let's talk about it another day. We are all in the same area and there is always a chance to meet. What does another day mean? Xiaofeng, you have to listen to what I tell you and don't come to the frontline battlefield, do you understand? Ah, okay. I know, Sister Yun, you have had a hard day. Go to bed early and pay attention to your safety. Good night. After hanging up the phone, she looked at Xiaofan and shrugged, as if to say, look at what a coincidence this is. Xiaofan also felt it was magical and sighed, I really didn't expect such a coincidence. A gentle and kind-hearted person like Sister Yun would actually become a transcendent. I can't imagine her fighting monsters. This is unimaginable. She originally studied medicine, and now she is also an extraordinary person in the medical department, a professional counterpart. Yes, I will apply to go to the frontline battlefield tomorrow. What about you? Does that need to be said? Okay, but we can't act together anymore. When the official extraordinary ones arrive, they will have to form formations to follow orders and cannot fight freely. Let's wait until we reach the front line before contacting us. The original plan was to split up and attack the targets separately. There is nothing to regret. You can go back and rest early. I will go back too. Okay, see you tomorrow. Well, we have to go to the battlefield tomorrow, so you should be less careful at night. Nigan. After bidding farewell to Xiaofan, she did not return to the BNB. Instead, she took advantage of the night and ran alone into the mountains and forests outside the resort. It's just dark now, it's too early to go to bed, why not have a thrilling night hunt? He has been holding it in for more than a month. Finally, he came to the monster refresh area and had the opportunity to collect extraordinary source matter. He couldn't hold it back at all. The so-called night is dark and windy, and the night is full of murderous people. When the moon is bright and the stars are sparse to fight monsters, how can such a long and wonderful night be allowed to be wasted casually? There is no need to devote your energy to taking care of Xiaofan, he is going to kill him tonight. Just when Shi started his night hunting with great interest, he didn't know that a conversation about him was going on in the resort's Four Seasons hotel. In an elegantly decorated, clean and tidy presidential suite, 2 beautiful women with outstanding temperament were sitting opposite each other. There were red wine and goblets on the glass table in the middle. One of the beautiful women, who looked more mature, leaned lazily on a wicker chair, holding a glass of red wine in her hand and shaking it casually. Her posture was elegant and her eyebrows were picturesque, as if she had a charming charm that seduces people. Her delicate face is fair and perfect, making it impossible to tell her age. She seems to be so favored by God that even the years cannot leave any trace on her face. Compared with her, the long-haired girl sitting on the other side has a much more serious posture. Although he is not sitting upright, he is still very upright, with his legs together and his body as straight as a sword. It can be seen that this girl is really young, with a graceful yet powerful body that still has the aura of youth. Her skin is so fair that it's a little dazzling, and she can be called a person who bullies frost and snow. Her appearance is even more celestial, and her appearance is not inferior to that of a beautiful woman, and is even more stunning. It's just that her facial features are exquisite and at the same time carry a heroic spirit that is rare for ordinary women. Her eyebrows are charming and smart, but at the same time they have a sharp sense of sword eyebrows and starry eyes, so that she gives people a kind of indifference and avoids strangers. The kind that's not easy to chase. If you compare them carefully, you can see that the facial features of these two beauties have some similarities, and they seem to be related by blood. However, the atmosphere between the two was not very harmonious at this time. I asked you here to let you taste the wine. I didn't ask you to stare at me all the time. I am your aunt and I have done nothing to apologize to you. Should you look at me like this? The beautiful woman took a sip of red wine and said something casually, breaking the frozen atmosphere. When the long-haired girl heard this, she asked in a straightforward tone, "You didn't feel sorry for me, but I also helped you a lot. You said you would let me go back to see him, why did you have to bring me here again?" Hearing the girl's question, the beautiful woman couldn't help tightening the wine glass in her hand, and several blue veins popped out on the back of her hand. "I'm really drunk too. I've been training you for 5 years, but I just can't get rid of your love brain, right? I have already promised you, so naturally I will not break my promise. Of course I brought you here because this is an excellent opportunity to improve your strength. I will bring you to practice again before flying solo. This secret realm in Cloud City is not just a medium to large one. The frequency and number of monsters escaping are higher than that of large secret realms. It is an excellent place for experience. When the official preparations are completed and the manpower is gathered to actually start conquering the secret realm, I will take you in again and accumulate a wave of extraordinary source material. By then, with the help of your apocalyptic abilities, your strength should be further improved. Entering the world's top class. You don't cherish such a good opportunity, and you are still here blaming me for delaying your meeting with your little lover? This is simply unreasonable." The more she spoke, the more excited she became, with a look of hatred for Steel, and she shook her head repeatedly, angrily. The girl looked unmoved and replied calmly. "Stop pretending. I know what you are thinking. You still don't agree with me going to see him. You just want me to stay with you and help you train your subordinates. But I will not compromise again. This is the last time. It's over now. I will leave after that. You have to train your subordinates and let them come to me on their own. I will not go back to Shucheng with you." What she said was not very polite. The beautiful woman frowned and said a little annoyed, "Sure. Is this how you miss me? No matter what, I am still your aunt. Your only relative in this world. I taught you. Is this how you have been taught to talk to me for 5 years? The girl named Shuri looked at her indifferently. Faced with the questions from her relatives, she still spoke calmly. "When you first found me, didn't you just want to make a deal with me, aunt?" The beautiful woman's expression was stagnant, and she was choked for a moment, unable to speak. But Shuri continued, "I thank you for taking care of me over the past few years, and I think I have always respected you enough. So far, I have met all your requirements, and even exceeded your conditions, so in fact I don't owe you anything. If you insist on controlling me even further, then I can only tell you that you are just one of my elders and have no right to interfere with my life. I only belong to myself." As she said that, she seemed to have remembered something, and then said, "By the way, after this incident is resolved, you will also go back with me to help him awaken his acquired powers. This is what we agreed before." The beautiful woman's face turned completely dark, the wine glass in her hand was crushed on the spot, she rolled her eyes and cursed angrily. "You little heartless thing. Who told you? Get out of here. Don't let me see your rebellious face again. You still have the nerve to ask me to help him awaken? I, Sure Inglan, have never awakened a stinky man in my life. Don't even think about it. Don't you think you can fly solo now that your wings are strong? Don't beg me if you are so capable. Sure stood up and looked at her angry look. He paused for a while, then suddenly shook his head and sighed. Aunt, you are still so willful. Have I spoiled you? Forget it, I'll figure it out myself. You're not the only apocalypse emperor in this world. Go to bed early. You just go to bed too late during menopause, and your temper will get worse and worse. With that said, she turned around and left, walking firmly and resolutely. The beautiful woman who thought she could take advantage of this matter didn't expect her to give up so easily. She suddenly lost her guard even more, and started acting a bit rudely, living up to her previous elegant charm, F***K. Are you serious? Let me tell you. Men are all heartless, and none of them can be trusted. If you are so infatuated with love, sooner or later you will be eaten to death by him and bullied to death. You haven't contacted each other for so many years. He has probably forgotten you a long time ago. Maybe there are others around him. You will be humiliating yourself if you go back. The timing. Let's wait and see. I'm waiting for you to come back crying and beg me. Sure who had already reached the door, suddenly stopped, turned to look at his aunt, and said firmly. You are wrong, he won't. He is the only one in this world who will never let me down. Even if he really doesn't want me, it must be my fault. I have been away from his world for too long and missed being with him. The best time of my life, so I want to make up for this mistake, even if it takes a lifetime. Damn. You're hopeless. Go, go, go. Get out. Chapter 47, Reality, Night Hunting in the Forest. After ending this not-so-pleasant conversation, she did not go back to his room. Instead, he jumped out from the hotel balcony, controlled the airflow, and flew into the air with the help of his own strength. The figure is as graceful as a fairy flying to the moon. Even if she is not wearing a long traditional dress, she is as dreamy and beautiful as a fairy, ethereal and ethereal. It's a pity that not many people appreciated her fairy appearance, because she flew too fast and fell into the distant mountains and forests in a blink of an eye, disappearing without a trace. She couldn't sleep, and she had just finished arguing with her aunt, so she was not in a good mood. At this time, she would vent the accumulated emotions in her heart through fighting. It just so happens that there are still many monsters in the wilderness near this scenic spot that have not been cleared away. Killing them is not illegal and has the advantage of being an excellent target to vent your anger. In the mountain forest of Lianyun Mountain Scenic Area, a vigorous figure shuttled among them. Although the environment is dark and complicated, it does not seem to affect his actions. For an extraordinary person, just a little moonlight is enough to see the road in the forest. It cannot be said that there is no impact at all, but most of the combat effectiveness can still be maintained. After all, when they reach the level of transcendent beings, most of them already have passive abilities in spiritual perception, which also helps them act in dark environments. There is no doubt that this person is Feng Shi. At this time, he is dressed in black and has a mask on his face, following Miss Lin Yuyao's warning. Facts have proved that Feng Shi's choice tonight was extremely correct, because he had already gained something not long after entering the mountain. Ouch! In the darkness, two mutated demon wolves suddenly sprang out and launched a sneak attack on him. Their speed is very fast, and they seem to have planned it for a long time. Feng Shi, who was advancing, flew forward, his whole body parallel to the ground, and slipped through the gap between the two demon wolves. I don't know when two claw blades appeared in my hand. While passing through them, they swiped under or on the sides of their abdomens with great skill. Falling to the ground and rolling, the two demon wolves behind him fell to the ground. They had been disemboweled and their rotten internal organs were flowing all over the ground. Feng Shi didn't even look at them. As he rolled forward, his hands holding the claw blades suddenly crossed forward. The murderous aura all over his body burst out instantly, and the basic movement skills of the Deshang level also showed their power at the same time. An ethereal sound of swords clashing suddenly sounded in the air. Feng Shi's body seemed to turn into a straight sword light with a black background and gold edge, and it instantly rushed forward for more than 10 meters, leaving behind scattered murderous flames along the way, blooming with fleeting beauty in the dark night. Wherever the sword light flashed, a two-legged, armored, hunchbacked fog-stained demon emerged from invisibility, with hundreds of fine scars on its body. It stood there blankly, a small stream of white smoke erupted from the holes in its body, and then fell to the ground helplessly, dying on the spot. Self-created combat skill, Yu Chakong Ming. The murderous energy value is concentrated on the short weapon and the whole body of one's own body. While using the force to rush and slash, the murderous energy covered on the body surface and the weapon is released together in an instant, turning it into hundreds or thousands of murderous blades. The body's advancement explodes together, triggering as much real damage as possible. Because what is pursued is an instantaneous concentrated burst, these murderous blades do not need to be launched remotely. They only need to be able to complete a thrust when the body passes the target, so the difficulty is greatly reduced and it is much easier than imagined. Because the speed was so fast, it left the illusion of the trajectory of the murderous blade in the air, as well as the dissipated residual murderous energy, which formed visual effects such as floating feather flames and butterfly shadows. This is the basic principle of this move. In fact, it is not a particularly complicated combat technique. However, it is particularly useful at this time, combined with Feng Shi's own natural ability, to deal with these thick-skinned abyss monsters. Feng Shi, I got up and it was done in seconds. What is there to say? He didn't even bother to pay attention to the monster's body, and went into the forest without looking back and continued moving forward. Although the corpse of a monster has a certain value, it is only a low-level monster after all, and no matter how precious it is not that precious. It was not Feng Shi's original intention to stop and dissect the corpse to waste time just for this little bit of material. Now he just wants to kill as many monsters as possible and hunt for more extraordinary sources. It is best to gather enough to make a second alien clone tonight. No wonder the child is so impatient, he is really hungry. And he also knows that although there are many monsters here, there are also many hunters, so the competition is actually very high. There must be countless extraordinary beings in the mountains hunting all night long in the forest, looking for monsters like him, including both individual and officially dispatched extraordinary beings. If he doesn't move faster, how can he achieve his goal? With this mentality, Feng Shi continued to travel quickly through the mountains and forests, tensing up and not letting go of any disturbance. Once you encounter a monster, it will be struck with thunder on the spot, and it will be killed instantly without any mercy, and then continue to move forward, like a ruthless god of death in the wilderness. During this period, Feng Shi also encountered other extraordinary beings who were hunting in the forest. Most of them worked in teams. Every time they met, they were in a team of 3 or 4 people, and sometimes there were even 6 or 7 people. Fortunately, we are all friendly forces, and we all maintain a certain degree of restraint. We will keep a safe distance after encountering each other occasionally, so as not to cause suspicion and misunderstanding. Of course, it's not like there haven't been conflicts at all. Once when Feng Shi discovered a small group of fog-stained monsters, he happened to be bumped into by another group of individual extraordinary beings. They discovered these monsters with their front and rear feet, so to speak. With real benefits in front of him, and Feng Shi being alone, the other party finally couldn't hold back, and Feng Shi didn't want to let it go either. Then the two sides started fighting. Although he didn't attack Feng Shi directly, he wanted to snatch the prey. Feng Shi was not polite. He used a hidden weapon first, then rushed forward and snatched the head of Yu Kongming. He turned back and slashed at the feet of the group of people with an air blade as a warning. The individual team was immediately frightened by his strong performance and did not dare to fall out with Feng Shi. Mainly because his performance of instantly killing a group of monsters with one move was too scary, showing enough strength in the most straightforward way. Of course, Feng Shi's friendly act of leaving the monster's corpse to them in the end also eased many of these conflicts and prevented an internal fight between friendly forces from happening. Although this was not Feng Shi's original intention, it was just an idea they made up. In short, Feng Shi's hunting tonight was fruitful. The extraordinary source of energy accumulated in his body gradually filled up, and he was getting closer and closer to tonight's goal. Just when he felt that there was great hope and was excited to speed up his movements again, suddenly, he saw a cold glimmer of light in the distant mountains and forests, bright and aloof, which instantly attracted his attention. That's Chapter 48, Reality. Young love-minded girls will not meet the male god of their dreams at night. Is someone asking for help? Looking at the cool blue light shining in the distance, Fengshi secretly guessed. Then he quickly denied this conjecture himself. If it is asking for help, the light should flicker irregularly, and it is unlikely to be on all the time. Moreover, the movement of this light is not large, and it has a leisurely and carefree feeling, and it does not look like it is in trouble. Since it's not asking for help, it's none of his business. Fengshi continued to move forward, and at the same time felt his own sea of consciousness, and found that the extraordinary source of energy inside had accumulated to a considerable amount. He had a feeling in the dark that as long as he killed one or two more fog-stained demons, he could gather it. Enough energy to create a second alien clone. This made him look forward to it so much that he no longer cared about the slightest bit of light. The pace quickens and continues to shuttle, looking for new prey. Soon, he was very lucky to discover a new monster. It was a group of monsters consisting of a fog-stained demon and a dozen infected monsters. What was strange was that they did not hide their whereabouts like other monsters. The mist-stained demon did not remain invisible. They ran like this without hiding anything, heading deep into the forest at full speed. The speed was still very fast, with the posture of a pig rushing forward, and Fengshi couldn't catch up for a while. This situation was obviously not right. Fengshi frowned, and while speeding up the pursuit, he raised his head and glanced at the cold blue light on the high mountains ahead, with some vague guesses in his heart. This seems to be the direction where these monsters are running. Could it be that the light has the effect of attracting monsters to come closer? You still have such an easy-to-use ability? Are you a little bit of a scumbag? If you do this, how can others kill monsters? I strongly condemn this kind of electric fish behavior. While thinking about it, Fengshi had a vague idea that was not very grand. At the same time, without hesitation, he took out a handful of game coins and kept shooting at the monsters running ahead. The Revenant, spend money online. This time the coins were fired one by one. Each coin was filled with as much infuriating energy as possible before being launched. It was much more powerful than just throwing out a large handful. A metal coin will explode directly when it hits a monster, and the fragments will shoot into the flesh, comparable to a shotgun. Basically, one or two can kill an infected monster. However, these monsters seemed to be possessed. Fengshi chased and beat them from behind, but they remained indifferent and just continued to run wildly. Even if their companions around them fall behind and disappear one by one, they remain indifferent. Fengshi felt more and more evil, but she kept walking. When he had shot all the dozens of infected monsters to death, they had already chased them far away without realizing it, and the blue-white clear light was already not far ahead. After getting closer, Fengshi discovered that the area illuminated by this light was actually very large, but most of the light was blocked by the trees, leaving only a beam of light that rushed out of the gap in the tree crown and dispersed into the night sky. It was only after he got closer that he smelled a faint fragrance of unknown flowers filling the air. It's not very rich, a bit vague, but it's very fresh and elegant, refreshing. Knowing that this might be some kind of extraordinary ability, Fengshi didn't dare to hear more. After holding his breath, he looked at the last fog-stained demon in front of him who was still running wildly, and there was a moment of hesitation in his eyes. But it was just a little hesitation, because he felt that the extraordinary essence of this monster was enough, so he quickly stopped hesitating and scattered all the remaining game coins in his hand to carry out a range attack, and then he took out a chain with a triangular steel cone at the end from the storage space. Raised his hand and threw it out, chasing the body of the fog-stained demon. This extremely fast-running fog-stained demon was hit by several coins. Unless it caused considerable real damage and additional damage, it was immediately staggered and slowed down. During this gap, a cone-headed chain came out of the air and wrapped around its neck like a spiritual snake. Fengshi, learn more about the nebula chain of Andromeda Saint Cloth. Fengshi, who caught the opponent, felt happy and immediately used force to pull the opponent to the ground. At this time, it can be said that it has entered the range of the unknown transcendental person. It would be a long night and many dreams. Fengxi did not dare to delay. While holding on to the chain, he took out a watermelon knife and moved towards the spot where the fog-stained demon fell. He ran forward and raised his hand to chop. However, at this moment, what he was most worried about happened. When he saw that he had succeeded, the surrounding environment suddenly became brighter. But I heard a gentle and ethereal voice faintly sounded, which instantly triggered several sharp sounds of swords piercing the air. Go! Fengxi's heart tightened, and for the first time she felt a sense of crisis. The watermelon knife she slashed changed in the air, and with a light red sword energy, she accurately struck a pale white sword light. Ding! Ding! Two crisp metal collision sounds sounded almost at the same time. Fengxi blocked the white sword light, but was pushed back by the remaining power, and simply flew backwards for more than 10 meters. At the same time, the chain holding the mist-stained demon in his hand was also cut off by another sword beam. Fengxi held his sword in front and stared at the blocker falling from the sky with vigilance, feeling quite fearful in his heart. Because he found that the other party was very strong, much stronger than he imagined. Compared with the other party, he is not on the same level at all. TCH. Have you met a real master? Is he the so-called strong man who has become a saint? Curious Fengxi stared at it, and then froze. But what he saw standing in front of him was a girl in white, with long flowing hair, fair skin, graceful figure, and impeccable appearance. She held an autumn sword in her hand, and above her other shoulder, a blooming epiphyllum appeared out of thin air, spinning slightly, exuding a dreamlike cool aura, illuminating the surrounding environment. The aura that attracts monsters to approach seems to come from this night-blooming night flower. This gesture can be called dreamy and beautiful. Even wearing a modern simple sportswear, standing there looks like a fairy from an ancient novel. Her temperament is too cold, noble, ethereal, and unreal. No wonder Fengxi was dumbfounded, even he couldn't help but be shocked, and he couldn't help but be surprised. Damn it! Can humans really look so awesome? Girl, you look so good, I feel a little embarrassed to steal you. But, why does it look a little familiar, as if I've seen it somewhere? Forget it, it must be an illusion, after all, beauties all look the same. If he had really seen such a beautiful girl before, it was unlikely that he would be unimpressed. Your Excellency, please come back. I attracted this monster, so naturally I should kill it. Please find another prey. Just when Fengxi was thinking about how to negotiate, the fairy girl had already spoken first. Her voice was pleasant, but her words were cold and not very polite. Of course Fengxi knew that she was in the wrong, but she couldn't bear to accept it. This was really the only one missing. With greed in his heart, he almost couldn't help but want to shout, "Stop talking nonsense. Extraordinary monsters, only the virtuous live in them. Forget it, let's negotiate again." He lowered his voice slightly and discussed. "Miss, I have actually discovered this monster a long time ago. I was about to take action but was seduced away by your tricks. Otherwise, this monster is really important to me. You can give it to me first, consider that I owe you a favor, and I will pay it back tenfold when you turn around." However, the girl was too lazy to discuss it with him. She raised her sword and pointed it at him, threatening her expressionlessly. "I'm not in the mood to argue with you, and I don't want any favors from you. I would like to advise you to leave as soon as possible and don't ask for trouble." Her meaning was very clear, there was no need to discuss this matter. Hearing this, Fengxi's heart sank. "In that case, I can only offend you." As soon as he finished speaking, he moved suddenly, swept the watermelon knife in his hand continuously, threw out 3 air blades, and drove towards the girl. The girl frowned. She didn't expect that he actually dared to take action. She just felt that he was overestimating his ability. The long sword in his hand turned at will, transforming into countless physical afterimages, and the shape of epiphyllum flowers and leaves faintly emerged, blocking her in front of her. 3 air blades came through the air, but were randomly crushed and resolved by sword shadow epiphyllum. However, at this moment, Fengxi had already flashed past her, pulled out a dim and bright straight sword light, slashed through the fog-stained demon behind the girl, and then ran wildly into the forest behind without looking back. And go. The girl was slightly stunned, and glanced at the dead mist-stained demon. A hint of anger finally flashed in her cold and pure eyes. Without saying a word, she raised her sword and chased Feng Shi through the air in the direction of her escape. With a wave of her hand, a circle of sword light like epiphyllum flowers and leaves appeared around her. Then she pointed her sword, and the sword light of flowers and leaves scattered and flew away. Go out, pursue and intercept. Suhua sword code Tanhua sword leaf. Seizing food from a tiger's mouth? That's a bit brave. It's a pity that you don't have enough strength. If you don't overestimate your capabilities, you should suffer a lot. Leave me alone. Chapter 49, Reality, Dual Superpowers. In the forest under the moon, the wind and sun rush across the road. The Desheng level basic movement skills are used at full strength. As he moves around, the grass, rocks and trees in the forest not only cannot become an obstacle, but also become his cover, thus avoiding the attacks of his pursuers. Feng Shi, it's so exciting to grab the monster and run away. In the mid-air behind him, the woman with fairy-like appearance and moonlight was hanging leisurely, waving the long sword in her hand eloquently, and the illusion of sword energy and epiphyllum appeared again and again behind her. These visions are fleeting, like a flash in the pan. The moment they disappeared, the flowers and leaves scattered into a stream of substantial sword energy, which continued to shoot downwards. The picture looks very beautiful and dreamy, but it also contains fatal danger. These sword energies are condensed and sharp, and will explode directly after landing, forming a range of energy impact. They kept chasing Feng Shi's figure and shooting down, cutting off the vegetation around him and overturning the ground. None of them were directed at Feng Shi's body, but they used waves of shock waves to make him very embarrassed. Feng Shi had already dodged very quickly, and he had dodged most of the sword energy shock waves, but he was still inevitably disgraced. Although he was not injured, he was very embarrassed. The two of them chased and escaped, and before they knew it, they had run a long way away. Shi was not as angry as he was at the beginning. He was just a little interested in this rogue and rude little thief and insisted on stopping him to teach him a lesson. My strength is average, but I can run pretty fast, which is a bit interesting. Her current mentality was like that of a cat chasing a mouse. It was a bit fun. She chased and shot him all the way. Seeing the little thief escaping in embarrassment, she felt that a lot of her unhappiness was vented. However, the unhappiness in her heart did not disappear, but transferred to Feng Shi. Isn't it just a little monster? Your ability is so convenient, you can attract as many monsters as you want, but why are you so stubborn like me? He finally came to his senses at this time. The little beauty behind him didn't want his life, she was just teasing and toying with him. And it feels like she is addicted to playing. Does she think that because she is strong and beautiful, she can play with others at will? Damn it! You can play in another way anyway. This is simply too much. She's a B****************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** kind of person. Fengshi was furious, and decided to warn her, letting her know that she was not easy to bully, so that she could retreat from the difficulties and understand the principle of keeping a tightrope in everything so that they could meet each other later. With a thought, the 7 extraordinary energies in his body, 6 except for the murderous aura, began to boil, converging towards his arms. The next moment after accumulating power, he suddenly swooped, leaped a dozen meters away, then turned around suddenly, stopping his body with 1 foot behind him, and his whole body was like a big bow that instantly stretched into a full moon. A javelin appeared in his hand at some point, and he aimed it at the woman in midair. His sharp eyes collided with the other's scornful eyes. Shi was stunned for a moment, feeling a faint sense of crisis. She had not felt this feeling for a long time. At this moment, she subconsciously moved the night flower in her ear to her body, and it expanded into a huge flower shield, blocking her body. Her eyes lit up for a while. The ancient and mysterious golden light. The next moment, a thunderous air explosion roared from below. A bright-colored beam of light broke through the atmosphere, arriving instantly with terrifying power. The giant epiphyllum exploded instantly, and the power of the beam was greatly reduced, but its power was not reduced. It passed through the girl's ear at an extremely fast speed, shot into the night sky and disappeared. Although there was no hit, the airflow that brushed against her face also left a small scratch on her fair and delicate face, adding a bit of shocking and broken beauty to her perfect face. Shurime's eyes widened a bit, and she was a little surprised for a moment. Did he deliberately miss the shot? Is this a warning to me? When Shuri came back to his senses, the joking in his eyes disappeared, but became even colder. Okay. You offended me first. You still have a temper, right? Did you do this to me to prove to me that he is not someone I can manipulate at will, and to persuade me to stop? Ha! I've been underestimated. The coldness and anger in her eyes turned into a condensed golden light, which then spread, covering her whole body in a golden halo, and her temperament changed instantly. From a fairy who emerged from the misty world, she became a goddess who walked out of the long river of time. In the golden halo, the wound on the girl's face flickered for a moment like a frame was dropped, and then disappeared very suddenly, returning to its original white, tender and tight appearance. Then the girl raised her hand slightly, and the broken Nightbloom spiritual object returned to its original state as if it were time traveling backwards, returning to her hand to float and rotate. The next moment, the girl shook her long sword, and the illusion of sword energy epiphyllum appeared, but it was dyed in a light golden color. The originally fleeting phantom turned into a real thing because of this golden halo, spinning in front of her, emitting countless flower leaf sword energy like a perpetual motion machine towards the wind and sun. Both the quality and quantity of the sword energy are countless times more powerful than before. Only then did Feng-Shi understand that she had probably not used even 1/10 of her strength just now. The warning from her javelin just now not only failed to scare her, but actually angered her. This illustrates one point. Even if the blow just now was not deliberately missed, but directly blew up her head, it probably wouldn't be able to really hurt her life, so she doesn't feel that Feng-Shi is showing mercy now. In other words, she now has to prove that she can handle him. I'm just better than you, and I just want to play with you, a little thief. Just bear with me. Is it a time-based ability? Is she also a dual power user? A monster escaped from somewhere. Facing the pale gold sword energy falling from the sky, Feng-Shi secretly thought something was wrong and continued to run wildly. The watermelon knife in his hand continued to throw out air blade slashes one after another, detonating the unavoidable sword energy in front of him. But this time she released too much sword energy, and it was endless, almost forming a torrent of sword energy. This has exceeded the limit that Feng-Shi's current strength can handle. Soon he will have nowhere to hide and is about to be overwhelmed by the sword energy. Damn it, are you going to use your trump card here? Joie. You forced me to do this. Feng-Shi secretly shouted and was about to use his last trump card, Doshan Ba Ti. However, the sword energy that had surrounded him flexed and passed over his body like a school of fish. It did not cause fatal damage to him, but only cut countless rips in his clothes, leaving a large number of fine and shallow sword wounds. It's not very painful, but it's definitely embarrassing and embarrassing. The girl with golden light all over her body fell in front of him, pointed her sword at him, and said coldly. It seems like you have some potential, so I'll spare you just once. Next time, remember, don't easily provoke people who are stronger than you. Other powerful saints don't have such a good temper like me. After saying that, she put away her sword, and her whole body suddenly dispersed, turning into a burst of golden particles, and disappeared on the spot. Feng-Shi breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that this little beauty actually accepted her love, so she lifted her up high and lowered her gently. It can be seen that she has a bit of a bodhisattva heart and is a kind-hearted girl. But she said she had a good temper. Feng-Shi disagreed. After taking a look at the small wounds exposed all over his body, Feng-Shi's face became a little ugly, and he felt angry again. Damn it! To be made like this by a little girl is simply a shame and a great humiliation. Still not strong enough, must speed up to become stronger. If you want to negotiate terms with others, you must have a strong foundation, otherwise others will ignore you. Just like the face fruit can take effect repeatedly, in the final analysis, it is because the red hair is strong enough that no one wants to be his enemy. Chapter 50, Reality, the second clone from another world. Because of this little incident that happened at night, Fengshi's desire to become stronger became even stronger. In fact, he did have a way to become stronger. After snatching the head of the last fog-stained demon from the girl's hands, Fengshi finally accumulated enough extraordinary source of energy. He couldn't wait to return to the B&B. After tidying up, he took a cold shower, and then activated his natural ability, alien clone technique, directly in the bathroom. The extraordinary source of energy in the sea of consciousness was consumed, and a shadow appeared next to Fengshi, gradually becoming clearer. Fengshi took a look at this clone and felt that it was similar to the previous one. It was more than 90% similar to her own, but the details were slightly different. He looked in the mirror again, and the picture inside almost made him unable to hold his nerve. Two naked figures stood next to each other, with slender and strong bodies, and perfect streamlined muscles. However, he is obviously such a handsome boy, but at this time he seems too philosophical because of the scene. At this moment, he couldn't help but think of a famous philosophical scene in his previous life. The locker room, the two wrestlers, the big muscles, and the hard-fought fight. As if sensing the picture in Fengshi's mind, the slightly blurry clone assumed a bodybuilding pose with unknown meaning. F***ku. Hurry up and time travel for me. Fengshi's face darkened, and she kicked him into the void, sending him to another world. Next time I can't create a clone in the bathroom, it's too shameful. Why do I look at my doppelganger and think of wrestling philosophy? This is so get up. Isn't it time to get serious about finding a girlfriend? Fengshi muttered, wiped her body and walked out of the bathroom, going to bed. However, he couldn't sleep for a while, and the cold appearance of the girl with dual powers kept appearing in his mind. Well, although I feel very unhappy, I have to admit that this girl is indeed beautiful. She is the most beautiful and stunning woman he has ever seen in his 2 lives. The feeling of suffering a loss at the hands of such a beautiful woman is quite complicated. Fengshi felt that it would be difficult for her to forget her. That night-blooming night bloom is probably. Then I'll probably meet her again, so stay away for now. Hey, I'm really asking for trouble. People really can't be too greedy, they can easily lose their minds and do stupid things. Of course, the alien clone is still very delicious. I don't know what type of alien world this time is. I hope the power system can be a little higher. Fengshi didn't know when he fell asleep last night. He could only say that trouble and shame really affected his sleep, and he wasn't in a good state when he woke up in the morning. But it didn't affect his activities today. Fengshi briefly freshened up, put on a mask and went out. Today he will go directly to the frontline blockade battlefield at the entrance of the secret realm to meet Sister Yun and earn more extraordinary essence at the same time. It was a truly extraordinary battlefield. Most of the monsters that escaped from the secret realm were intercepted there. The quality and frequency of monsters were much greater than those in the outer wilderness. That's where the strong should go to the battlefield. As for the interior of the secret realm, it will have to wait until the official preparations are sufficient before convening the elites to enter. It cannot be entered alone. If he wants to enter the secret realm, he must show sufficient strength outside before he can be officially selected to join the team that conquers the secret realm. For these reasons, it was obvious what to do next. He wants to kill everyone on the battlefield and steal the show. He wants to kill from south to north, so that everyone can see him but not know who he is. Xiaofan was going to set off with the official transcendent, so Fengshi didn't need to wait for him and started traveling alone. The location of the entrance to the secret realm is obvious. It is in the deepest part surrounded by mountains. From a distance, you can see that you need to climb at least a dozen mountains. This journey is already very far for ordinary people. It is normal to walk on the mountain road for 2 or 3 days, but it is not difficult for extraordinary people. This is especially true for those extraordinary people who have mastered the ability to fly. Although Fengshi can't fly yet, the mountain road won't trouble him. He kicked off his footsteps and ran all the way over the mountains and ridges. At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he arrived at the area near the entrance of the secret realm and stood at the foot of one of the foggy mountains. Not only did it not feel hard, I even killed several monsters I encountered unexpectedly on the way. After personally coming to the area where the two cloud mountains were located, he truly realized how magnificent the wonders produced by the combination of nature and extraordinary power were. Standing at the foot of the mountain and looking up, two mountains standing side by side tower into the clouds. The majestic and straight peaks penetrate into the thick sea of clouds and fog, and gradually only an outline remains. Starting from the halfway point of the mountain, the two mountains are shrouded in rolling clouds and mist. They are moving and still, and the combination of movement and stillness forms a spectacular scene from ancient times, just like the Kunlun Mountains and the immortal dojo in myths and legends. It is ethereal, mysterious, and shocking. Feng Shi looked at it for a while, then lowered his head to look at the foot of the mountain ahead. But they saw that the forest at the foot of the two mountains had been completely cleared away, leaving a large circular open space. A series of wooden houses, tin houses, tents, bunkers, gun towers and other facilities stood at the junction of the open space and the forest, forming temporary bases everywhere, each watching and surrounding the two mountains. Feng Shi even saw the station troops and several artillery positions. This made him sigh, what a generous act. Chapter 51, Reality, Lu Yun. After standing in the distance and watching for a while, Feng Shi continued to move forward, and while approaching the blockade, she took out her mobile phone and called Lu Yun. Sister Yun, I'm near the entrance to the secret realm. Where are you? I'll look for you. When Lu Yun heard this, her tone was a little helpless. Your wings are really hard now. If you are told not to come, you insist on coming. You won't listen to my sister, right? Feng Shi coaxed casually, Sister Yun, I have always respected you, how could I not listen to you? But you also have to understand me, I am 18 after all. Lu Yunqi asked, what happened to Shiba? Why should I understand you? Feng Shi, an 18-year-old boy is like the wind in early summer, enthusiastic and unrestrained. Lu Yun, speak humanly. Feng Shi, you are in the rebellious stage. Lu Yun, F***ku. Come to the field emergency room of the number 3 logistics camp. I want to see how rebellious you can be. Feng Shi, okay. After hanging up the phone, Feng Shi looked up and found that there were actually many wooden houses and tents in the back camp in the forest at the edge of the clearing. As soon as he got closer, the patrolling soldiers spotted him and came over to him and asked. Hello, are you the civilian extraordinary person who came to support you? Brother Bing had a good attitude, and Feng Shi politely showed them his identity certificate, and then asked. Hello everyone, I am indeed here to support the frontline battlefield. I have a friend who is an official transcendent and has been here for a while. She is in the field emergency room of logistics camp number 3. How can I get there? As soon as Feng Shi finished asking, the captain of the patrol saluted him with a military salute, and then gave an order to a soldier beside him. Private Chen Xiaojun, come out. Crack. Take this gentleman to logistics camp number 3, field emergency room. Yes. Feng Shi couldn't help but be a little surprised. Does the military have such a good attitude towards civilian extraordinary people? And they even send someone to guide him? But this is just right. The environment in this forest is a bit complicated, and the campground is also temporarily built. There are no obvious signs, and it is really hard to find without anyone to guide you. Feng Shi thanked him and followed the soldier who led the way to the destination. Logistics camp number 3 was not far from him, and it took less than 10 minutes to walk. When the soldier took him to the door of the field emergency room, a plump and graceful figure was already standing outside, as if he had been waiting for a long time. If you look closely, you will see that it is a beautiful woman dressed as a military doctor. There is a pair of eyes on the delicate face, which makes the gentle face a little more intellectual. The figure is plump and healthy. Her skin is not particularly white and tender, but has a healthy wheat color, which adds a bit of vitality and sophistication to her gentle temperament. Overall, she is a beautiful big sister. Even if she does not score 90 points, she still scores above 80 points. Of course, Feng Shi would not rate her appearance, because she was a relative he always respected and loved in his heart. Sister Yun. He quickly stepped forward and said hello. Lu Yun looked Feng Shi up and down carefully, then thanked the soldiers behind him. This is my brother. I'm really sorry. If you can send me away if you please. The soldier waved his hands quickly. It's okay. It's our duty to recruit reinforcements, so you're welcome. With that said, he said goodbye directly, turned around and trotted away. After the soldiers left, Lu Yun's temperament changed, and she immediately pinched Feng Shi's ears and sneered jokingly. Ah! Isn't this our 18-year-old Xiao Feng who is as rebellious as the wind? Quickly show me, sister, where is the rebellious bone in your rebellious period? I will remove it. She didn't use any force. Feng Shi pretended to beg for mercy and said, Sister Yun, I'm joking with you. I can't rebel with you even if I rebel against you. Spare my life, spare my life. Lu Yun let go of his ears, stretched out her fingers and tapped his forehead, and said angrily, I'm not kidding you when I tell you not to come to the front line. Do you know how many wounded people are sent to me every day? The most common people among them are stupid young people like you who don't know the heights of the world. Listening to her caring accusation, Feng Shi was moved but also a little helpless. He knew that his status as a newcomer who had just awakened was indeed unconvincing, but he still defended himself. Sister Yun, don't you know my temper? Will I do something I'm not sure about? Don't worry, I still have some strength. I just go to the battlefield to see the world. If something goes wrong, I will definitely run faster than everyone is fast. Humph. I think you'd better not be too careless. Lu Yun said, and then asked, Where is Xiao Fan? Didn't you come together? Where are the others? He has joined the official extraordinary organization. He has to follow the large army and will probably arrive later. I am an independent and have more freedom, so I came here first. After listening to this, Lu Yun was a little puzzled. Are you an apocalypse? Why don't you join the official? I remember that our country's treatment for apocalypse is very high. It's better than being an individual, right? Feng Shi casually replied, Of course it's for freedom. You know, an 18-year-old boy is like a fart. Stop talking nonsense to me. You know, I don't like a restrictive environment, and a free individual is more suitable for me. After Feng Shi finished speaking, Lu Yun rolled her eyes again. I think you just haven't had enough fun and don't want to go to work. Hey! Sister Yun still understands me. Stop being such a mouthful, this is not your place to stay. I will find a friend to come over and take you with me later. He is an extraordinary person in the military. Only if you follow him and have someone to take care of you on the front line can I really feel at ease. Hearing this, Feng Shi suddenly became interested and asked with a wicked smile. A paranormal friend from the military? Who is it? Male or female? Could it be your boyfriend? He had heard Dean Lu say before that Sister Yun had met a male friend in Yuncheng, and it was rare that he had some clues. He also said that he might be able to do it this time. Feng Shi asked curiously and learned that he seemed to be in the army, a young officer with a bright future. Now it seems that it is more than that simple. As expected, when Feng Shi teased her like this, Lu Yun blushed for a rare moment and did not deny it. You brat, you are quite well informed. But we have just confirmed our relationship not long ago. Please don't talk nonsense later and make others embarrassed by asking questions. Feng Shi's smile suddenly became more and more joking. Hey! You really think about your partner. It seems that you are serious. It's really rare that you have such a high vision and you can catch my eye. I'm a little curious about where my brother-in-law is. Holy! I want you to stop talking nonsense. My brother-in-law is here. He hasn't even written his horoscope yet. While joking, they said that Cao Cao was about to arrive, and a slender and tall figure walked towards them quickly. Feng Shi turned around and saw a young officer wearing a military uniform with an upright posture. His facial features were handsome and resolute, and his demeanor was calm and restrained, giving people a very reliable feeling. Feng Shi's eyes lit up when she saw it. Don't tell me, Sister Yun's boyfriend looks really good. He is restrained and very aura at the same time, giving people the feeling of having a gap in his chest. The most important thing is that his strength seems not to be underestimated. Chapter 52, Reality. Sir, times have changed. Yunner, why did you call me here? Who is this? The calm and resolute handsome man in military uniform approached and asked Lu Yun, while his eyes fell on Feng Shi. Lu Yun introduced him to him openly. Zhuang Yan, this is the child who grew up in my father's orphanage. Feng Shi, who I raised as my younger brother, just woke up not long ago and accepted the official reward and came here to support him. He stopped by to meet me. He is still a newcomer, and he insists on coming to the front line to see the world. I am not very worried about him, so I would like to ask you to help take care of him to prevent him from running around on the battlefield and encountering danger. I just don't know if it is inconvenient for you. In her mouth, Feng Shi seemed to be a naughty child who needed to be looked after, leaving him a little speechless. However, he also heard from Sister Yun's tone that the two of them had indeed just talked for a short time, otherwise they wouldn't have to be so polite. In order to avoid leaving a bad impression on Sister Yun's partner and affecting the relationship between Sister Yun and her boyfriend, Feng Shi politely greeted her first. Hello, Brother Zhuang. I'm Feng Shi, please give me your advice. After Zhuang Yan listened, he stared straight into Feng Shi's eyes with thick eyebrows and big eyes, but did not speak. Lu Yun was confused by him, showing a puzzled expression, and hesitated before speaking again. However, Feng Shi understood something from his eyes and decisively changed her words. Hello, brother-in-law. Brother-in-law is really a talented person, and he looks just like my sister. Zhuang Yan raised his head instantly, showed a satisfied and gratified smile, and replied steadily and enthusiastically. No problem. It's no trouble at all. I was just about to go to the front line, and I just happened to take Xiaofeng there. Don't worry, since he is your brother, he will also be my brother-in-law from now on. I will treat him as my biological brother. Xiaofeng, right? If you need anything, just tell me. I still have some connections here. Don't be polite to your brother-in-law. Feng Shi was happy and replied, okay, brother-in-law. Then I'm so rude. Lu Yun finally reacted, and rolled her eyes at him with a blushing face, then glanced at Feng Shi, and said angrily. You too, what are you talking about? I don't care, I'll leave it to you, go away quickly, I'm very busy. With that said, he turned around and returned to the emergency room. Feng Shi smiled when she saw it. You see, the big girl is so shy. He turned back to look at Zhuang Yan and said teasingly, brother-in-law, you can't tell that he is very good at flirting with girls. Zhuang Yan smiled kindly and said a little helplessly, I can't help it. Your sister has too little face and is easily shy. She is always polite to me even though we have already established a relationship. I must seize more opportunities to attack, but let you are laughing. Feng Shi gave him a thumbs up. That's awesome, brother, you understand. No wonder you can win over my sister Yun. It is really not good for couples to be too polite before. Boys occasionally act meanly unexpectedly and deliberately stir up the emotions of their partners to make them shy. This is indeed helpful to break down the barriers and heat up the relationship. Flirting and teasing is the normal way for couples to get along, and being polite and courteous is a foreign policy. Looking at his thick eyebrows and big eyes, I didn't expect him to know how to play tricks. This guy is really not simple. Thinking of this, Feng Shi squinted her eyes and tried again. Brother-in-law, you know so much, aren't you an expert in love? Tell the truth, how many girlfriends have you had? When Zhuang Yan heard this, he immediately said seriously, don't get me wrong, this is absolutely not true. Your sister is my first girlfriend, and I just want to make her the last one and marry her home. It didn't look like it was fake, but Feng Shi didn't express his position. He was going to observe more, but he said, don't be nervous, I was just joking. In fact, in this era, it is normal to have a few failed relationships. Zhuang. I'm 35. I joined the army after graduating from college. I've been very busy and I haven't even had much contact with girls. I don't have to lie to you. He still tried to make Feng Shi believe in his innocence, but Feng Shi put her hand on his shoulder and comforted him. I understand. I believe you. There are indeed fewer girls in the army. Then he changed the subject and said, let's go first. Brother Zhuang, don't you also have a mission to go to the front line? Don't delay. Okay, then you follow me and I will help you get familiar with the environment and get to know the way. The two of them hooked up and quickly became familiar with each other. Apart from anything else, Feng Shi felt that although Zhuang Yan was a bit unconventional, his character should still be quite good. As an extraordinary person and a military colonel, he was already in a high position, and he didn't treat others well. What a rack! It can be seen from the attitude he showed towards the soldiers he met on the road that the soldiers also respected and even loved him. This affinity is not pretended, but revealed naturally. It's enough to see this. A high-ranking officer who is approachable and loved by the soldiers at the bottom must not be much different in character. What's more, he has a very good attitude towards Feng Shi. What he just said was not just polite words. Feng Shi quickly recognized him and began to push further. Brother Zhuang, what model is the gun on your waist? It looks so handsome. Can you lend it to me to play with? Feng Shi, who was chatting while walking, suddenly turned the topic to the gun on Zhuang Yan's waist. In fact, he had already noticed that the gun had a simple yet cool shape. It looked a bit larger than an ordinary pistol. The dark metal seemed to have something extraordinary, which made him a little jealous. What boy doesn't like this thing? What's more, he has always had an idea: are firearms considered an unpopular weapon? Can he enjoy the bonus of his weapon master talent? There are no extraordinary weapons like firearms in the sky realm. He has always wanted to try out a gun in the real world, and now is obviously an opportunity. Hearing Feng Shi's question, Zhuang Yan hesitated and said, "This is supporting equipment provided by the military for extraordinary soldiers like us. It is made of extraordinary materials. Its power is not comparable to ordinary firearms. It can also cause effective damage to incorporeal extraordinary creatures. Each gun has a number and cannot be given away to others casually. It is okay to lend it to you for fun in private, but it cannot be given to you." As he said that, he took out the gun and handed it to him. Feng Shi took it enthusiastically, and felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity as soon as she took it. He immediately understood that firearms were also affected by the effects of the weapon master and could receive bonuses. He suddenly became excited, and the pistol rotated in his hand in a fancy way, and then he quickly disassembled it into a pile of parts, and quickly assembled it back before Zhuang Yan could react. Bang bang bang. With 3 consecutive shots, a big tree 100 meters away was hit in one place by special extraordinary bullets, blasting through the trunk on the spot, leaving a hole the size of a fist. Zhuang Yan's expression changed, he frowned and looked at Feng Shi, his eyes becoming suspicious. He is so proficient in using the gun, he doesn't look like a novice who has touched a gun for the first time. Isn't this guy some kind of border bandit? Feng Shi didn't notice his look, she just looked at the new skills that appeared in the personal panel and grinned. Basic firearms, entry. Light firearm specialization, entry. Ha ha ha. Sure enough, there is something interesting. Sir, times have changed. I have read the comments and feedback from book friends in the past 2 days. It seems that everyone is very concerned about the male protagonist snatching the female protagonist's monster. So I will revise it today. At the beginning, I only wanted to describe the female protagonist in a bad way. It's annoying. It's best to make her not the wrong party when the conflict occurs. As a result, she used too much force and made the male protagonist hateful. This is my mistake. I'm really sorry. To express my apology, I will add another chapter today. Finally, thank you again for your support. Chapter 53, Reality, Meet Again. Well, don't get me wrong, my awakened talent is called Weapon Master. As long as it is a weapon, you can quickly master its usage as soon as you get started, and firearms are no exception. Feng Shi finally noticed that Zhuang Yan looked at her strangely, and quickly explained and handed the gun back to him. Zhuang Yan was relieved and smiled and made a proposal that made Feng Shi's eyes light up. I see, it's a really useful ability. If this is your situation, you can apply for a special gun license from the official. As long as you can prove that your extraordinary abilities can be used on firearms and effectively improve combat effectiveness and combat methods, you may be able to apply. Of course Feng Shi was very interested, and asked happily, is there still such a privilege? I am not a transcendent from the official organization, can I still apply? For Sanren, it does require some connections, but... Zhuang Yan smiled confidently, his meaning self-evident. I am your connection, you can just apply for it, it's guaranteed, brother. I understand. I'll apply later. Is it done at the military? Many official extraordinary institutions can handle it, including the military. You can come to Yunqing military to handle it. It's convenient. Okay. By the way, I can find some acquaintances in the Ministry of Armaments to get you some firearms made of extraordinary materials. However, you must remember not to use them in public, nor to shoot at ordinary people. Damn it! Is it true? Brother-in-law. It's not a big problem, just leave a phone number. Under the leadership of Zhuang Yan, Feng Shi quickly arrived at the frontline battlefield at the entrance to the secret realm. In fact, it is an open space at the foot of two foggy mountains. The Dragon Kingdom's army, official extraordinary organizations, and civilian extraordinary individuals were distributed in the surrounding fortifications, surrounding the two mountains, and the blockade was stretched very long. With Feng Shi's field of vision, he could only see the tip of the iceberg of the blockade, but even so, many people could already be seen at the scene. He just glanced at it and could see groups of soldiers preparing for battle, as well as extraordinary beings standing further ahead who had gathered into various teams. Most of them are official extraordinary beings wearing uniforms. They form groups of 3, 5, 10, or 12 people, and are distributed in various locations around the battlefield in the form of small teams, forming an orderly network. The rest are private individual players. Some of them dress in fancy clothes, some of them wear simple clothes, but most of them are disguised so as not to reveal their true appearance. Only those individual groups with larger numbers do not pretend to be famous. They formed their own teams and were outside the network woven by the official extraordinary beings. They were eloquent, did not take the ordinary path, did not stand in ordinary places, and put on various poses to highlight one personality. Some were sitting on the ground in 2s and 3s, like having a picnic. Some stood on the trees with their arms folded, looking down at the battlefield. Some simply sat on the top of the military fortifications, in stark contrast to the serious soldiers below. There are even people who sit on various large beasts that they have tamed, which is quite cool. It looks like the 8 immortals crossing the sea, each showing their magical powers. Feng Shi's view on this is: okay. Everyone has their own personality. They are all a bunch of pretenders. But are there too many extraordinary beings here? Are there so many people in other directions? So how many extraordinary beings are here? This is the largest battle area in the entire Wushan battlefield. The number of monsters running down from the clouds and mist on that mountain is the largest and most frequent, so a large part of the extraordinary power is deployed here. Seemingly sensing Feng Shi's doubts, Zhuang Yan explained the reason why there were so many people here. Only then did Feng Shi understand. It turns out that this is the main battlefield, so it's not surprising. Then he asked, there are already so many extraordinary beings, is it necessary to deploy so many troops? Zhuang Yan explained, of course it is necessary. Because I underestimated the enemy before, there were too many monsters running down at the same time, and the extraordinary ones had no time to deal with them, causing the blockade to be broken. The army deployed at the rear is an insurance. When there are not many monsters, the extraordinary ones take action. This allows them to kill monsters to increase their strength. In case of insufficient manpower, they can also take action to supplement the damage. The ammunition used by the army here is special and can also cause considerable damage to extraordinary creatures. Legion operations in such open areas have far greater advantages than individual operations, which is enough to support the battle situation. After listening to this, Feng Shi had a clearer understanding of the official power of the Dragon Kingdom. At the same time, he couldn't help but think that this was different from the many spiritual recovery and doomsday-themed novels he had read before. The army was never put to great use, and modern weapons always failed for various reasons. There are not so many moths in the real world. As long as modern weapons can be effective against monsters, the world structure can still be stable before the full invasion of the abyss. This can buy more time for extraordinary development. As for after the full invasion, then you really can only rely on extraordinary beings. After all, you can't expect to use mushroom bombs to kill big bosses like the Abyss Lords or even the Abyss Demon Gods that have their own damage-free mechanisms and various rule abilities. Thinking of the historical legends of the Sky Realm, the human race paid a heavy price in order to deal with the Abyss Lords and demon projections that invaded the world, and I couldn't help but feel heavy. If the same thing happened in the real world, it would be really... wow. Damn it. What's going on? Someone is here again. Wow. So many beauties. That's right, it's Shering Lan, the Empress of 10,000 Flowers, one of the Apocalypse Emperors, here. It is said that the Empress of 10,000 Flowers has a cloud of beauties under her command. When I saw her today, she certainly lived up to her reputation. Damn it. I can hardly see it anymore. Just when Feng Shi was deep in thought, the scene suddenly became noisy, interrupting his thoughts. He turned around and saw a group of female extraordinary beings forming a team flying from mid-air and slowly landing on the battlefield. There were about 30 people, all of whom were young and beautiful beauties. Each of them had a flower emitting spiritual light floating around them. The types were different, but they could all release power, allowing them to float and fly. Along the way, the lights were shining and the flowers and leaves were falling. Together with their outstanding looks and graceful figures, they really complemented each other. The scene was like a group of fairies descending into the mortal world, so beautiful. Naturally, it attracted the attention of the whole audience and became the center of attention. After they landed, they each put away the natal spirit flowers around them, followed a stunningly beautiful woman and came to the central headquarters of the official organization, occupying the best area. You can see several commanders of official agencies coming to the beautiful woman and talking politely. Feng Shi and others also looked at these beauties from a distance, and narrowed their eyes slightly. Is this the 10,000 Flowers Empress Shering Lan, one of the two Apocalypse Emperors? She is indeed very grand. As soon as he appeared on the stage, he brought a group of little fairies down from the sky. I can only say that it is indeed high profile. If you think about it carefully, this is a group of beautiful-looking and extraordinary powerful versions of T0, with all the buffs stacked up. Can't afford to offend. Can't afford to offend. Then Feng Shi thought of something and looked among the beauties for a while, and sure enough he saw an acquaintance. But he saw the woman in white from last night, her face covered with a veil, standing quietly next to Shering Lan, looking absent-minded. Feng Shi's eyes moved. She is indeed the Empress of 10,000 Flowers. Now Xiao Fan's affairs are a bit difficult to handle. Chapter 54, Reality, the first-line battlefield at the entrance to the secret realm. After seeing the girl in white next to the Empress of 10,000 Flowers, Feng Shi knew that Xiao Fan's entrustment to her was probably in jeopardy. It was originally agreed that Xiao Fan would contact the official water-type Apocalypse Emperor, but he went to contact the private Empress of 10,000 Flowers, trying to get a quota for Xiao Ninger to be awakened the day after tomorrow. But now, he has had a conflict with the people around Empress Wanhua and offended each other. Thinking about it, he knows that his route may not work. In this case, he simply stopped thinking about it and even had no idea of contacting them. He knew very well that a beautiful woman meant trouble, let alone a large group of beauties, one of whom he had offended. He thought it would be better for him to stay away from them. At worst, he will find other opportunities for Xiao Ninger in the future. In fact, he has considered that maybe he can bring some kind of treasure from another world, which can also help ordinary people become extraordinary. For example, the job transfer scroll in the Sky Realm. Has he ever thought that if he brought the job transfer scroll to the real world, would it allow ordinary people to become warriors? Although ordinary people in the real world are destined to not have a personal panel, they can still get the bonuses of extraordinary professions, right? He can also teach skills and combat techniques. If this can be accomplished, it will be of great significance. The warriors who want to form a system have more potential than the awakened ones in this world, right? The key is that the job transfer scroll can already be mass-produced in the Sky Realm. Many extraordinary professionals can make it, so it is not difficult to obtain it. File mages among combat professionals and scroll burners among life professionals can both make job transfer scrolls. The scrolls for any professions that need to be made can be easily met as long as a formal professional of the corresponding profession assists. What's the loss? In fact, Feng Shi has asked his clone Feng Shi to buy some job transfer scrolls when he is free, so that he can give them to him after he summons his clone to the real world for the first time. Before that, he needs to accumulate more extraordinary sources so that he can baptize more treasures brought from other worlds. Thinking of this, Feng Shi looked up again and glanced at the swirling sea of clouds between the two foggy mountain peaks, and asked expectantly, "Brother-in-law, when will the monster come out? I can't wait." Before he could finish his words, a rapid siren suddenly sounded near the official transcendental headquarters, making everyone immediately look at attention. Zhuang Yan, who was next to Feng Shi, immediately shouted to the soldiers around him, "The monster has appeared. Everyone is on alert." The soldiers immediately stood ready and loaded their bullets. Then Feng Shi saw bursts of infrared light emitting from the official Extraordinary Command headquarters and various surrounding military fortifications, covering the entire site as if scanning. Under the red light scanning, a large number of invisible monsters suddenly appeared on the seemingly empty battlefield. They ran out of the clouds and mist on the mountain, and there were probably hundreds of them at first glance. Unlike other places, there are hundreds of monsters, most of them are fog-stained demons, and only a few are monsters transformed by infected native creatures. Even these few infected monsters seem to be much more demonized than the surrounding creatures. Not only do they become larger in size, but they also have more and more mutated organs on their bodies. After being scanned by the red light, these mist-stained demons seemed to know that they had been exposed. While continuing to charge, they began to activate their own abilities and spray mist from various holes on their bodies. Hundreds of fog-stained demons released fog at the same time, and soon the battlefield was covered with a layer of fog, which became increasingly dense. The monsters were hidden in the fog, and the infrared light was refracted by the fog, gradually losing its invisibility effect. "We can't let the fog continue to spread, take action immediately, range attack." An order came from the official Extraordinary Command, and the official Extraordinary people immediately took the lead, unleashing various attacks into the fog, and started with a round of barrage. At the same time, there are many extraordinary people whose abilities are related to air currents and storms. They work together to stir up strong winds and blow away the fog. The attacks of the extraordinary ones fell on the group of monsters, and as the energy swept through, many mist-stained demons were injured and emerged from their invisible state. The more unlucky ones were caught in fire by multiple supernatural powers and died suddenly on the spot. However, the mist-stained demons that were attacked became even more violent, maintaining their charging formation, and continued to attack the human blockade regardless of the damage. Looking at the power, it is indeed quite terrifying. However, the extraordinary beings here seem to have been familiar with their attack methods for a long time and have already prepared ways to deal with them. But I saw a group of official extraordinary people standing in the front row suddenly taking action. Some released earth yellow energy, some jumped high and punched the ground, some stretched out their hands to make a push, and some raised their hands. His hands dug into the ground and lifted up the floor. In an instant, earth and rocks surged, the ground cracked, stone forests sprouted, and boulders rolled. The monsters were unsteady on their feet and fell down one after another under the influence of these earth-based abilities, even trampling on each other. The charging formation was suddenly broken in the chaos. "Now, let's go together," someone shouted, which immediately attracted the extraordinary beings to rush forward. Not only the official supernatural beings, but also the folk supernatural beings who were watching from behind finally took action, using various methods to rush into the battlefield, adding insult to injury to the panicked monsters, and beating up the drowned dogs. Soon the monster group was quickly divided, and the scene suddenly turned into a one-sided massacre. The monsters were at a disadvantage, and finally panicked and began to flee in all directions, running around in panic. Seeing this, Feng Shi no longer hesitated and said to Zhuang Yan beside him, then took out a wooden spear and rushed into the battlefield. "Brother-in-law, I'm here too." Zhuang Yan was not very relieved at first and wanted to hold him back, but he didn't expect Feng Shi to be so fast and fall into the battlefield in just a few leaps. Then he saw this kid brandishing a spear and whipping up a storm of sharp blades. In the blink of an eye, he killed several fog-stained demons on the spot, and then continued his killing spree like breaking bamboo. He was suddenly a little shocked. This kid is actually so strong? Is he really a newcomer? Then he retracted his palm and felt relieved. He knew that with Feng Shi's current strength, this kind of battle situation should not threaten his life. Even if there is any unexpected situation, with this strength, it shouldn't cause trouble immediately, and he will be able to help in time. The combat power displayed by Feng Shi at this time should not be underestimated. The spear danced wildly, and the wind swept across the gun. It was sharp and domineering, like an invincible vanguard general. Not only was he domineering, but he also killed monsters at an unusually fast speed. There were many extraordinary people around who noticed him, and found that these rough-skinned and thick-skinned fog-stained demons were scratched to death under his hands in a short while. They only felt that the more they looked at them, the more evil they became, and their eyes became a little more fearful. Many members of the beauty team near the headquarters also joined the battle at this time, releasing long-range attacks on the periphery to harvest the lives of monsters. However, the woman in white named Shi did not take action and just watched quietly. When Feng Shi joined the battlefield, her eyes moved and her eyes fell on him. Chapter 55, Reality, More and More Monsters. What a handsome marksmanship. Although the strength is a bit low, the martial arts skills should not be underestimated. I guess he was a martial arts practitioner before awakening. This kind of person is more worthy of training than most extraordinary people. Sister Shi's vision is really poisonous. She can tell you at a glance saw a potential stock worth noting. A somewhat charming voice sounded in his ears, but it couldn't make Shi turn around to check. He seemed to know who the speaker was. It was a beautiful woman wearing a slim-fitting red dress with a stunning face, whose looks were almost as good as hers. However, she saw her walking lightly to Shi's side. When she saw that she ignored him, he was not angry, but looked at her again. Looking at the wind in the distance, he asked. Sister Shi knows this young man who wields a gun? Don't deny it. Most people can't catch your eye. Shi retracted his gaze and replied casually, I don't think we know each other. I met him last night and snatched one of my prey. He is indeed quite capable. She said it lightly, but the woman in the red dress widened her eyes, put away her teasing expression, and spoke in a more serious tone. Is there anyone in this world who can steal prey from you, sister? Although this boy is strong, he doesn't seem to have that kind of strength, right? Sister, are you showing mercy? Shi didn't bother to explain, so he just said perfunctorily, I can't compete with a family member who has not yet become a saint, right? I'm not that narrow-minded, and I'm not that idle. Although she said this, the beauty in the red dress still became interested in Feng Shi. She looked at him with burning eyes and said with a sweet smile. That's amazing. It seems that this kid is much more powerful than people expected. Such a young man with potential is really exciting. Sister Shi, do you want this guy? If not, sister, I will take action. Hearing this, Shi understood what she meant, rolled his eyes and said, whatever you want. The woman in the red dress immediately covered her mouth and chuckled, oh. I almost forgot, Sister Shi, you are not interested in recruiting subordinates, and you have the master's favor. Unlike us senior sisters, you have to rely on the power of your subordinates to win over you. Master's favor. In this case, let me get in touch with this boy. If my sister can take him under her command, I will thank her very much. Shi still looked cold and replied casually, that's not necessary. It has nothing to do with me. How could it be irrelevant? Without you, sister, I wouldn't have been able to discover such a treasure boy. I just don't know what his true appearance is like under the mask. He already has a good figure. It would be even better if he was a handsome boy. Shi glanced at her speechlessly, sneering in his heart. These direct disciples adopted by my aunt, on the surface, each one looks hotter than the other, but in fact, they are all taught by their aunt to despise men from the bottom of their hearts. They only regard men as tools and will not be touched by any man at all, so they are just the same. Just a flock of chicks. In the final analysis, they are just a group of seductive fairies, who use their beauty to toy with and applaud men, and regard this as a kind of spiritual practice. Only those men who are so lustful and stupid will prostrate themselves under their pomegranate skirts and wait for their orders. How can a truly strong man bow down to them? She instinctively felt that this daring brat could not be subdued by his senior sister. But she didn't say anything, just let her hit the wall, lest she remain so arrogant and really think that all men in the world are animals that think in the lower body. It is more cost-effective to suffer a little loss from this kid now than to suffer a loss from a real strong man in the future. The battle ended quickly, and hundreds of monsters were carved up. Feng Shi took action in the middle and killed more than 20 of them. The harvest in one wave was more than the previous ones combined. It was like a fat wave. However, because he was very ruthless in grabbing monsters, many extraordinary people around him had their monsters stolen by him, which made him look a little unhappy. This was somewhat of a hidden danger, so Feng Shi put the spear on his shoulder, glanced at them murderously, and conveyed his goodwill to them with his eyes. "What are you looking at? Looking for some smoke? Are you unhappy? Then come and have a fight with me? If you don't dare, just hold it in for me." Because the people who were robbed of monsters were basically Sanren, and their strength was relatively average. After being glared at by him, they were really afraid of his strength, so they chose to keep things quiet, not wanting to offend him easily. Of course, this is just the case on the surface. I don't know if there are any sinister means behind the scenes. After returning to Zhuangyan, he greatly appreciated Feng Shi's strength. Feng Shi was also invited to join the military, and the salary was definitely higher than that of other official organizations. Feng Shi naturally declined. He doesn't even want to go to official institutions, and it's even more impossible to restrain more military forces. However, Zhuangyan asked him to think carefully and not to refuse in a hurry. While he was pulling, the alarm sounded again. Everyone was a little surprised now. "We just finished dealing with a group of monsters, why are they here again?" Sure enough, before they even had time to clean up the corpses of the monsters on the battlefield, another group of fog-stained demons ran down from the mountain, more in number than the previous wave. Zhuangyan, who was beside Feng Shi, frowned and his face became a little solemn. Something's wrong. The frequency and number of monsters coming down the mountain have increased again. If it continues to increase at this rate, can the blockade really be maintained? He didn't say it out loud, he just thought about it in his heart. Feng Shi didn't know the worry in his heart. He was only excited that there were so many prey here, and thought that he had come to the right place. Without saying a word, he saw the right moment and joined the battlefield. Feng Shi then continued to fight on the main battlefield on the front line, participating in the interception of every wave of beasts that came down. By nightfall, he had experienced 10 waves of battles, each with hundreds of monsters. He had a great time killing, but many extraordinary people smelled an unusual smell. Especially the extraordinary ones who came a few days ago clearly found that the number of monsters that appeared was doubling every day, and there were even more of them today. If this continues, everyone will have to worry about whether it will lose control. At the same time, there was another thing, that is, in the evening, new reinforcements came from the rear, and they were quite large. This time the official team of extraordinary people came, and Xiao Fan was among them. When Feng Shi saw him, she found that there were several acquaintances around him, who were his colleagues at the Tianqi Bureau in Hangzhou. It seemed that they had also applied. It is worth mentioning that Luo Can, who he had dealt with once, actually came. Feng Shi glanced at him and ignored him, instead focusing on the group of extraordinary beings at the center of the official team. It was a group of extraordinary beings whose aura was obviously stronger than the others. They all wore dark blue uniforms and protected an extraordinary, elegant and steady middle-aged man. Like the Empress of 10,000 Flowers, they were warmly received by several senior officials upon their arrival. His attitude was even more respectful than towards the Empress of 10,000 Flowers. Feng Shi immediately guessed that he was another Emperor-type Apocalypse, the official Water-type Apocalypse Emperor Zhou Chongyuan that Xiao Fan wanted to contact. Chapter 56, Reality, Xiao Fan is conspicuous. The blockade battlefield at the entrance to the secret realm obviously operates day and night. Even at night, the monsters will still come down when they should, so there must be enough personnel on duty to guard it. The extraordinary beings and soldiers here are actually divided into day and night shifts, taking turns to work. Feng Shi only arrived this afternoon and hadn't killed enough yet, so he didn't plan to leave even if night fell and decided to stay and continue fighting. But after several high-intensity battles, he encountered a new problem. Many of the weapons he brought were damaged and could no longer be used. Not only the spears at the beginning, but also the spare nunchakus, steel pipes, steel rulers, steel bars, claw knives, chains, butterfly knives, big wrenches and other weapons were all used up. There was nothing he could do about it. The weapons he brought were just ordinary objects he collected when he was in Hangzhou. Some were bought from hardware stores, some were picked up from construction sites, and the best ones were just modern handicrafts bought online. Not to mention, compared with real extraordinary weapons, the material is not even comparable to normal cold weapons. Although he will wrap weapons with various energies during battle to provide them with certain reinforcement and protection, this method is not omnipotent and can only provide certain protection. Once the fighting intensity is high, these inferior weapons will inevitably be unable to withstand the battle between extraordinary individuals. Feng Shi had no choice but to borrow a military thorn made of extraordinary materials from Zhuang Yan and use it first. For long-handled weapons, just find a few wooden sticks from the forest and use them. If they are worn out, you can find them again and cut them. Even the hidden weapons were used up, and I started to pick up pebbles on the ground to replace them. Fortunately, with the collateral damage of each attack and the blessing of various energies, the combat effectiveness has not declined much, but it is a little troublesome. This made him realize that although it sounds cool to pick up a stick and kill demons, he really should have some extraordinary weapons that he can use. He hasn't reached the stage where he doesn't care about excellent equipment. In fact, if he has a magical weapon in his hand, it will obviously improve his current combat power. Fortunately, he already had a solution to this problem, and he didn't even need to ask his clone Feng Shi to bring him extraordinary weapons from the Sky Realm, because he would have a better choice soon. He has already received feedback from the second alien clone. The abilities gained by the second alien clone in the new world should immediately help him solve his need for weapons. There is no need to consider the issue of weapons for the time being, the rest is Xiao Fan's business. After he came to the front line, Feng Shi didn't go to talk to him, but stood at a distance to observe his performance. He did not disappoint Feng Shi. As expected, he couldn't wait to express himself as soon as he entered the battlefield. He was not stupid enough to run up to the boss and get close to him. He just actively showed his ability and character in the battle. During the battle, he was on the front line and unleashed various space attacks on the monsters. Because the space system ability is indeed very powerful, all kinds of attacks almost ignore defense. It is indeed the nemesis of the thick-skinned pollution demon, and it has indeed given him many outstanding performances. Not only fighting, he also spared no effort to help his teammates around him, even those extraordinary folk he didn't know. Every time he saw someone around him was in a hard fight, or was accidentally hit by a monster's attack, he would teleport over to help resolve the damage. Later, they will pretend to be concerned, greet the other party warmly, and even give some embarrassing encouragement. "Brother, how are you? Are you okay?" "It's okay now, because I'm here." "Comrade, keep fighting, let's slay demons together." "You're welcome, as a transcendent from the Dragon Kingdom, I will never just watch my compatriots get hurt." "Damn monster, how dare you hurt my compatriots? You must die quickly." Because he acted so exaggeratedly, the extraordinary people around him who had been rescued were both grateful and embarrassed. Feng Shi, who witnessed the whole process, was even more embarrassed and scratching her feet. He generally doesn't have the problem of being embarrassed for others, but he can't stand the fact that the other person is his best friend and is so conspicuous. He decided that after leaving the battlefield tonight, he must talk to him and give him guidance on his acting skills. However, although it became a conspicuous bag, it must be said that these actions were still somewhat effective and did attract the attention of many people, but the effect was not the same as he imagined. "This little guy is a bit interesting. He seems to be of the space system." He is a good seedling worth cultivating. He is just too eager for quick success and his little thoughts are too obvious, which makes people laugh and cry. Brother Zhou, what do you think? Do you want to give me some advice? In the official extraordinary headquarters, the director of the Yunqing Apocalypse Bureau looked at Xiao Fan, who was working hard on the battlefield. He couldn't laugh or cry, and at the same time, he specifically mentioned something to the Emperor Apocalypse Zhou Chongyuan next to him. Zhou Chongyuan, however, kept his expression, and lost interest after just one glance. This kid is too utilitarian, and his acting skills are so poor. He needs to observe his character again. I'd better leave the opportunity to improve him to others. I don't bring in new people much recently. This sentence is equivalent to stating that he will not recruit Xiao Fan, and he does not even want to pay attention to him. Naturally, others will not say anything after hearing this. Even if there are senior officials who think he is worthy of training, they will not refute him at this time. However, Shi next to Shi England cast his gaze on Xiao Fan, his eyes hesitant and strange. Xiao Fan was not masked and was a familiar friend when they were children. She had already recognized this conspicuous bag as Feng Shi's little follower when she was in the orphanage. Unexpectedly, he actually became an extraordinary person and met him here. For a moment, her mind wandered, and she quickly made a decision. It was not until 10 o'clock in the evening that Feng Shi and Xiao Fan came down from the battlefield and decided to go back to rest. Xiao Fan wanted to meet Feng Shi, so he separated from his familiar colleagues early. However, before he could find Feng Shi, he was stopped by a silhouette as cold as an immortal. What the hell? God? Seeing the beautiful girl who suddenly appeared in front of him, Xiao Fan was shocked, and then asked with a look of surprise. Beauty, who are you looking for? Shi looked at him quietly and said, Xiao Fan, long time no see. I'm Shi. What time of year? I have no impression at all. When Xiao Fan heard this, he didn't react at first, but then he suddenly remembered something, and his eyes gradually widened in shock. Wait a minute. What time is it? The girl replied seriously, time changes, heart changes. Have you forgotten? When you were in the orphanage, you called me eldest sister. F***K. It's really you. Chapter 57, Reality. He doesn't want to see you, give up. Looking at the beautiful girl in front of him who looked like a fairy descending from heaven, Xiao Fan looked up and down in surprise, and asked in disbelief. Shi, why have you changed so much? We haven't seen you for a few years, how come you have become so beautiful? Although she was very cute and beautiful when she was a child, she was just a normal little girl. She could even be said to be a little wild, an outgoing tomboy. However, the girl in front of her was already so beautiful that she was beyond mortal, like a cold fairy. There was such a huge difference in appearance and temperament that he really couldn't recognize them at all. Shi explained nonchalantly, maybe it's grown. Xiao Fan complained directly, the god has grown, have you become an immortal? Shi thought about it and thought of a more reasonable explanation. It should also be affected by the apocalypse's superpowers. Getting stronger will also lead to an improvement in appearance and temperament. Besides, my abilities are also quite special. After explaining, she asked again and again with some urgency. Stop worrying about these unimportant things, Xiao Fan, are you and Feng Shi still in contact? How has he been in the past few years? When Xiao Fan heard this, the shock in his heart was instantly suppressed. While secretly becoming vigilant, he narrowed his eyes and asked. Why are you asking about him? I haven't seen you care about his current situation for so many years, and you haven't even made a few phone calls. Why are you asking me now? Shi's eyes darkened, and he said sadly, I have a special reason, it has been inconvenient these past few years. Anyway, I have never forgotten him, just tell me. The more Xiao Fan looked at it, the more something was wrong, and he thought to himself. What do you mean? It looks like she has unresolved feelings for the madman. Do you still want to go back to find him? No. What will my sister do if you turn her back? Her unrealistic delusions must be dispelled. Thinking of this, he rolled his eyes and said, ahem, okay, then I'll tell you, the madman won't have a good life after you leave. After hearing this, Shi breathed a sigh of relief and smiled happily. That's good, that's good. What a fart. Look how I hurt your heart. Xiao Fan chuckled secretly and continued. She looked at Xiao Fan again, rolled her eyes, and thought that now that she had the opportunity, she might as well please Feng Shi's brother first and make up for the estranged relationship. It would be best if he owed her a favor, so that he might be able to help him later. Strategy for Feng Shi. Thinking of this, she said warmly. Okay, let's do this for now. By the way, you worked so hard today, you probably want to ask for a quota for awakening the day after tomorrow, right? I happen to have the channel, I will help you get one later. When Xiao Fan heard this, his face became a little more solemn, and he refused without hesitation. No. I don't want it. Who told you that I want a place for awakening the day after tomorrow? Don't make random guesses, okay? I'm just working so hard today. I just want to perform well in front of the leaders so that I can get the respect from them. It's for official career. Don't get me wrong. He wished she could stay away from them. How could he ask for her place and still owe her a favor? Not only can he not owe a favor, Xiao Ninger must not owe this favor either. Otherwise, how can he compete with her in the future if he is born a dwarf? He knew that Shi might have her mind set on him, and secretly said that he could no longer argue with her, so he immediately said. It's getting late. I'm very tired today. I have to go back and rest early. If you have nothing to do, don't come to me. After all, you are an extraordinary person in the civil society. You are not in the same league with our official organization. You let my leaders and colleagues see the senses. No, it will affect my career. After saying this, Xiao Fan turned around and left without giving Shi any chance to get entangled. Shi also saw his resolute attitude, and suddenly became a little puzzled. Does this kid really want to make progress? He always talks about his career. When he was a child, he never said that his dream was to be a high official. We haven't seen him in a few years. What a big change. Time is a terrible thing. But what he said is right. I really can't be impatient. I'll wait until I get to Hangzhou to find ways to repair the relationship. As long as I have enough patience, I will definitely succeed even if I have to start a relationship from scratch. Well, come on, Shi, you can definitely do it. On the other side, Feng Shi, who also wanted to find Xiao Fan, was stopped by a bright red silhouette by coincidence. Good evening, little brother. A soft and sultry voice came from above. Feng Shi couldn't help but look up, and saw a woman in a red dress sitting on the treetop above her head, swaying a pair of white and slender calves, slightly raising her hand to greet him. There is a scornful and sultry smile on her beautiful and gorgeous face, and there is a bit of playfulness in her lazy and charming posture. What a stunning beauty! However, Feng Shi only lost consciousness for a brief moment before falling into a state of confusion. Who is she? Why are you leaving her here? Chapter 58, Reality, Shi Yuyan. Looking at the beautiful lady sitting on the treetop who greeted him sweetly, Feng Shi was obviously stunned for a moment. After taking a look at the deserted environment, he raised his head hesitantly and asked, Miss, are you looking for me? That's right, it's you. I've been paying attention to you for a long time today. The beauty's direct admission did not make Feng Shi happy. Instead, she frowned and asked, what should I pay attention to? Little brother, you are so humble. Your invincible heroic appearance and momentum on the battlefield this afternoon are not comparable to others. People were so fascinated by it that they couldn't help but admire me, so they couldn't help but come here to get to know me. Where are you, brother? I wonder if little brother would like to make friends with me. The beautiful lady flew down from the tree and came to Feng Shi and praised her repeatedly. Her eyes were as charming as silk and her voice was soft and sultry. This should be a very artificial behavior, but because she is really beautiful and high class, and her temperament is also very good, without a trace of coquettishness, it does not seem kitsch. In particular, this expression of pure desire, which does not know whether it is true or not, but with a hint of admiration and yearning, really enchants all living beings, and the average man may not be able to resist it. However, Feng Shi became wary, took a step back to keep her distance, and her voice became a little colder. Miss, why are you making such a joke? A girl like you is an extraordinary person, and you have Emperor Tianqi as your backer. You must be well informed and have seen countless young talents. How could you like me, a single person? Such little ability? If you have something to say, just tell me. If you just want to tease me, please forgive me for not having time to accompany you. Seeing Feng Shi's resolute attitude and vigilant look, the woman in the red dress suddenly smiled, put away her fangirl expression and voice, and seemed to have returned to normal, and said with some disappointment. It's boring, can't you cooperate with me? It's so charming. But you little guy is quite wary, which is an advantage. It makes me like you even more. She walked around Feng Shi with her head held high and said her intention with a bright smile. Actually, what I just said is correct. I really want to make friends with you and build a good relationship with you. It would be even better if I could directly recruit you into my team, because I think you have great potential. Oh? Then you have good taste. Feng Shi wanted to say this, but what came out of her mouth was, thank you for recognizing me so much, but I long for freedom the most and will not join any force. Miss, you should not put your thoughts on me. It's okay, I know talents have to work hard to win over each other slowly. I just came here today to get acquainted. The woman in the red dress was not angry either, she smiled very freely and said, remember, my name is Shi Yuyan. I think we can start with friends first. Don't you boys have a saying that multiple friends lead to multiple paths? If we just make friends, you won't refuse anymore, right? Feng Shi looked at her confident smile and narrowed her eyes slightly, just about to say no. However, the other party suddenly waved his hand, took out a long sword out of thin air, unsheathed it and turned it into a beautiful sword flower, lying in front of Feng Shi. Feng Shi subconsciously leaned back slightly to avoid her sword wind, frowned and asked, what does this mean, Miss Shi? Shi Yuyan handed the sword to him and replied with a smile. I see you don't have any weapons yet, right? All the messy objects you used seem to be damaged. How can a warrior like you not have a good weapon at your side? This is my sword, Qing Shu. I am as confident as any famous sword in the world. It should be worthy of your skill, so I will lend it to you first. Feng Shi lowered her head and looked at the sword, which was etched with cyan higan flower patterns and glowed with cyan aura under the moonlight. It was an exquisite sword with excellent appearance and exquisite details. She could also see that it was a rare and extraordinary weapon. Not even comparable to ordinary extraordinary weapons. However, he was still not moved, and just asked, I lent you the sword, what are you using it for these days? Shi Yuyan chuckled and teased calmly, are you worried about me? Don't worry, I still have one in my hand. It's a pair with your Qingshu sword. This woman's rank is so high. Unfortunately, I don't like being passive. The corners of Feng Shi's mouth raised slightly under her mask, and she stretched out 2 fingers and placed them on her horizontal sword. The next moment, her fingers suddenly turned into clamps, clamping the sword body and rotating it, driving her arm to rotate around the trajectory of the sword flower just now. Then he drove her whole body to rotate in a circle like a waltz, from facing him to facing away from him. The clamped long sword was also cleverly inserted back into the scabbard in her other hand at this moment. The long sword was sheathed, and Feng Shi's voice was also in her ears. Thank you for your kindness, but I am not used to using a woman's sword, nor do I make friends who are too thoughtful. Miss Shi, I don't hate you, and I don't think we can't be friends, but I think it's not now. When the words fell, the wind and sun had drifted away. Shi Yuyan was a little surprised that she was so easily moved by the opponent's movements. After she came back to her senses, she felt a little embarrassed, turned around and yelled. You be *********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** Hey! At least tell me your name, right? I feel so embarrassed when you do this. Damn it. Little boys nowadays are so rude. However, this guy is a little more interesting than I initially expected. Because of being delayed by this woman named Shi Yuyin, Feng Shi was not able to meet Xiao Fan. He sent him the message and location directly through his mobile phone and asked him to find it himself. After he arrived at the door of Sister Yun's residence and waited for a while, Xiao Fan also arrived late. "What are you doing here? Why are you so late?" ×2. They both spoke at the same time and asked the same question in unison. Then they were all stunned for a moment, and then answered nonchalantly. "Xiao Fan, it's nothing. I met a woman on the road and asked for my phone number, but I dismissed her." "Feng," she said curiously, "by coincidence, I also met a woman from the lineage of the Empress of 10,000 Flowers. She wanted to attract me with her beauty, but I rejected her." When Xiao Fan heard this, he was immediately shocked. "What? People around Empress Wanhua? Are they coming to contact you?" Feng, she was startled by his attitude. She looked at him suspiciously and asked, "Why are you reacting so hard? I've come into contact with the established target. Shouldn't you be happy?" Xiao Fan decisively changed his words and said, "Don't contact them. Those women are not cheap at first sight. I'm afraid you will suffer a loss. I will figure out a way to awaken the quota the day after tomorrow." "Have you heard anything?" Feng, she asked curiously, and then thought of the cold and strong girl in white last night and the naturally charming lady in red tonight, and suddenly nodded in approval. "But these people are really difficult to deal with. It's better to stay away." "That's right. I think so too." Xiao Fan nodded repeatedly, and then reminded, "By the way, try not to show your true face when you are moving here these days, and you must wear a mask." Hearing this, Feng, she nodded, deeply convinced. He performed brilliantly today and won a lot of kills. At that time, he offended a lot of people. In order to prevent them from causing trouble later, he really should be cautious. "I know all this. Let's go. I'll take you to see Sister Yun. She was talking about you today. By the way, I told you that Sister Yun has a boyfriend and he's here." Sister Yun is just talking about a boyfriend now? Isn't it a little too late?" "What do you mean? Are you mocking her for her age? Don't talk like that when we meet Sister Yun later. I won't stop her from whipping you later." "I didn't mean that, don't interpret it randomly. Sister Yun is so gentle, she won't hit me. That means I won't kiss you anymore. She was not polite when she beat me. That means I really treat you as a relative. You kid, don't be ungrateful. You don't need to say that. I'm just going to show off. F***K. Just scream." Chapter 59, Horcrux, Everyone's Weapon Soul. "Feng Shi. What are you doing? Can you take a nap on a day like today?" A cheerful boy's voice rang in his ears, awakening his chaotic and unclear consciousness. The young man opened his eyes drowsily, looked up at the sunny boy in front of him, and then turned to look at the surrounding environment. "I found myself in a modern classroom, sitting in the back row by the window." His mouth moved, but before he could speak, a large amount of memories and information flooded into his mind, interrupting his confusion. After a while, the young man understood his identity and situation. He is a clone from another world. The world he traveled to is called Tiangong Realm. It is also a plane that has been invaded by the Abyss for many years and has an extraordinary power system. His name in this world is Feng Shi, and he is an orphan. His parents were killed in an attack by monsters from the Abyss, and he was raised in an official orphanage since he was a child. Now that he has just turned 18, he has reached the critical period of awakening his natal soul weapon. It is known from the initial memory that Tiangongji also awakened the collective consciousness of the plane in the early stages of the Abyss invasion and gave the apocalypse to all mankind. However, what is different from the real world and the sky realm is that the apocalyptic effect of the Tiangong realm allows every adult human soul to condense a natal Horcrux in which life and life are intertwined. Horcruxes possess various and strange extraordinary abilities, and are also the key to unlocking the path of human cultivation in this world. After awakening the Horcrux, human beings can absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth through the Horcrux to practice. At the same time, they can absorb the extraordinary source of energy by killing monsters in the Abyss, improve their own strength, refine the Horcrux, and improve the level and grade of the Horcrux. There are almost endless types of Horcruxes. As long as they are items that have appeared in human history, they may be condensed by a certain human being. Although the initial levels of Horcruxes are divided into 3, 6, and 9 levels, the most common white Horcruxes and the top-level innate holy weapons are already very different from the beginning. But even the lowest initial white Horcrux, as long as it continues to be practiced, improved, and refined, it may eventually grow into a legendary acquired holy weapon, or even a divine weapon. The human warriors who practice soul weapons and fight against the abyss are collectively called weapon soul masters. They are the guarantee for the human race to survive the invasion of the abyss, and they are also the patron saints of human civilization. Every weapon soul master who has received an official title is a valuable asset to the human race in this world. He has a very high social status and is respected by thousands of people. Feng Shi couldn't even condense his natal Horcrux, but when he thought of the powerful men in his memory who held powerful Horcruxes, flew to the sky and escaped from the earth, raised their hands to break mountains, collapse mountains, burn mountains, and cook the sea, his heart began to surge. This world is amazing. It perfectly meets the needs of the ontology. There should be no natal weapon that is more suitable for oneself than a Horcrux condensed from one's own soul, right? I just don't know what kind of Horcrux I will awaken. It is best to be a deformable Horcrux similar to Thousand Machine Umbrella and Magia Fei Gong, so that it can match the power of the original body. Logically speaking, the effect of his alien clone technique must be top-level qualifications, and he can awaken top-level talents. In this world, he should be able to condense the innate holy weapon level Horcrux, right? The more he thought about it, the more he looked forward to it. Hey! Feng Shi! Did you hear what I was talking to you? Why are you so distracted today? The young man's voice in front of him sounded again, and Feng Shi focused her attention on him and said casually. It's nothing. I was so excited last night that I didn't sleep well all night. I felt sleepy in the morning. He found that this reason was really useful and could be used in all different worlds. As for the young man in front of her, he was Feng Shi's best friend in the class. They went to and from school together, went to the cafeteria together, and went to the toilet together. His name is Ling Feng, but he is not an orphan. He has a happy family, his parents are still alive, and he has a twin sister of the same age. Hearing Feng Shi's answer, Ling Feng had no doubts because he was so excited that he stayed up late last night and could understand his mood. He said to Feng Shi enthusiastically, I saw an official soul weapon master coming to our building just now. It is estimated that several classes have started to awaken their soul weapons. It won't be long before you arrive in our class. I'm so nervous right now. I'm afraid that I won't be able to awaken a combat-type Horcrux. Feng Shi knew that his dream was to become a combat weapon soul master who could protect his family and country, so he comforted him. Don't worry, even if you are not a combat type, you still have the opportunity to improve your strength and be admitted to the Tianbing mansion. What's more, there is a military. Even if you don't join the official army, you can still be a free mercenary. These words could not comfort Ling Feng. He shook his head and said, I know this. Any Horcrux is qualified to continue practicing, but I am not a rich second generation. If I can't awaken a combat-type Horcrux or a high-quality Horcrux, I won't get official special recruitment channels and resource subsidies. The path to transcendence will be much more difficult. You also know the situation of my family. Although it is relatively wealthy, it can only support one person to practice at most. If I don't get the subsidy, and Ling Shui doesn't awaken a good Horcrux, then one of us will give up. Practice. Only then did Feng Shi understand what he was worried about. In this world, although everyone can awaken a Horcrux, theoretically everyone is qualified to practice. But what is more realistic is that resources are limited, and the government can only invest the limited resources in people who are more likely to become talents. Newcomers who awaken white ordinary Horcruxes and whose initial type has nothing to do with combat will basically be abandoned by the official. If they want to get ahead, they can only rely on themselves. And it is difficult for most humans with ordinary Horcruxes to embark on the path of spiritual practice under such circumstances. In the end, they can only ignore everyone and become ordinary people who are protected, fearful in this dangerous world where monsters often invade. Alive. If possible, no young man would end up like this. After all, who doesn't want to control powerful power and live forever? Feng Shi understood his uneasiness, but unfortunately, he couldn't empathize with it. Because he is already sure that he will become a genius. Fortunately, Ling Feng was optimistic enough and quickly comforted himself. Hey, let's not say these depressing words. My sister and I are so good, how can I not awaken a good Horcrux? There is some truth to what he said. Generally speaking, humans who can awaken high-quality Horcruxes can actually see some clues before awakening, and most of them are outstanding. Either they are particularly smart, or they are very talented in sports. They are generally the more capable among their peers, and they must have something special about them. Ling Feng is one of those with particularly good athletic talent. He runs very fast and his nerve reaction speed is stronger than the average person. The most important thing is that his eyes are very accurate. Whether it is a toy gun, a slingshot, or even just throwing things, he is much more accurate than others. Many students have speculated that if he awakens a combat-type Horcrux, it should be a long-range attack type. As for his sister Ling Shui, she is very good at studies, smart and beautiful, and her grades have always been among the best. The probability of students like them awakening good Horcruxes that meet the official special recruitment conditions is definitely much higher than others. Hearing this, Feng Shi teased, "That's right. You know it yourself, so why are you still worrying here? You're here in Versailles on purpose, right?" Ling Feng was a little embarrassed by being teased and said quickly, "I'm not a sure thing, so I can't take it lightly. To be honest, the two geniuses in our class are the ones who really don't have to worry." As they said that, they both thought of something at the same time and turned to look at the center of the classroom. Chapter 60, Horcrux, Horcrux Level. Blue Pistol. At Ling Feng's reminder, Feng Shi turned her head and looked at the center of the classroom. Sitting there were two students with outstanding temperament who could be said to stand out from the crowd. They were a man and a woman, sitting next to each other. The man is cold and handsome, the woman is cool and beautiful, and both have extremely eye-catching appearance and temperament. Because the man is handsome and the woman is beautiful, and their temperaments are very similar, sitting together gives people a feeling of a perfect match, and it is easy for people to take the initiative to knock CP. However, if you observe carefully, you can find that they seem to be tit for tat with each other, with an aura of incompatibility. Feng Shi quickly remembered that they were the most influential figures in the school, two super academics who made all the students look up to them and felt inferior to them. They are almost all-around geniuses, so good that they are unreasonably good. In terms of study, they occupy the first and second positions all year round, fighting for each other and refusing to give in to each other. In terms of sports, it is something that others cannot match. Every time there is a sports meeting, as long as they participate in the competition, there is no suspense about who the champion is. If he wins a long-distance running championship, she will soon win a swimming championship. He won the table tennis championship, and she dominated the badminton court. In short, the two of them are a pair of monsters, so good that no one can think of competing with them, so they can only compete with each other. But because of this reason, the relationship between the two is very bad. Each one only wants to outdo the other. They fight and quarrel every day. They are obviously classmates, but they are like life-or-death enemies. It is said that a mountain cannot tolerate two tigers, except one male and one female, but in their case, neither male nor female can do it. Ling Feng secretly looked at the two of them and sighed with envy. I really don't know what level of Horcruxes these two monsters, Li Yixuan and Gongsun Jingming, will awaken. Even if they both awaken innate sacred weapons, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Feng Shi's eyes flickered and she said casually, "It's not bad. I think I'm no worse than them. There's nothing to say." Damn it. When did you become so confident? You're not awake yet, are you? Humph. I'm too lazy to tell you. Anyway, just keep an eye on me. I'm invincible in front of me. Huh, don't make me laugh, what else? Bang! The front door of the classroom suddenly opened, bringing the noisy discussion in the classroom to an abrupt end. The students all looked around and saw Lao Tian, the head teacher, respectfully leading a middle-aged man in a handsome uniform and robe into the classroom. Everyone recognizes this uniform. This is the uniform of Tianbing Mansion. This is an official weapon Soul Master. Students, I believe you already know what day today is, so I don't need to say more. Master Lu from the Heavenly Arms Mansion's time is precious. From now on, you must keep quiet and accept the baptism of weapon souls one by one to let your soul weapons manifest. The head teacher came to the stage and said a few words before giving up his seat and inviting Mr. Lu to come on stage. This Master Weapon Soul Master is also a vigorous and resolute person. He only said one sentence when he came to the stage. You should also know that starting from the day you passed your 18th birthday, the apocalypse has actually come to you, allowing you to condense the weapon soul embryo deep in your soul. Today's weapon soul baptism ceremony is just using extraordinary abilities. Stimulate the process of the Horcrux manifesting in your body in advance, so no matter what Horcrux awakens later, don't be stupid and ask me to do it again. Okay, let's start now. Call the first student to come up. After he finished speaking, the head teacher next to him had already taken a roster and started calling the names. Zhao Mingliang, you are the first, come up quickly. A boy stood up excitedly and hurried to the podium under the gaze of all his classmates. Master Lu, the weapon soul master, immediately raised his hand and summoned a hard-shell book that exuded a ghostly light out of thin air. There is no doubt that this is his natal Horcrux. Generally, Horcruxes such as books, crystal balls, and magnifying glasses are more suitable for performing awakening rituals, getting twice the result with half the effort and being more efficient. As the natal Horcrux appeared, a spiritual light fell on Zhao Mingliang and quickly integrated into the center of his forehead. After waiting for a moment, a not too bright white light lit up between his eyebrows, and finally a white light pillar rose. In the beam of light, a writing brush slowly emerged, and finally fell in front of the boy, and he subconsciously reached out and grabbed it. Mr. Lu took a look and said casually, "White ordinary Horcrux, writing brush, non-combat type, has not reached the special move threshold, next place." The head teacher immediately wrote this information on the roster, and then continued to roll call. Kai Kunken. The first boy went down in despair, and his desk mate came up to the stage with a nervous look on his face. After the same steps, another white beam of light rose, and a basketball appeared and fell into his arms, causing his face to immediately fall. White ordinary Horcrux, basketball, non-combat type, has not reached the special move threshold, next place. After the class teacher took notes, he continued to roll call, Qian Xiaohao, come up. White ordinary Horcrux, cowhide drum, non-combat type, has not reached the special move threshold, next place. Sun Xingxing. White ordinary Horcrux, wooden stick, it can barely be regarded as a combat type, but the initial level is too low, and it still has not reached the threshold for special moves. However, if you are unwilling, you can practice on your own and take the social examination of Tianbing Mansion. Next one. Li Donglai, it's your turn. Blue exquisite soul weapon, pillow, non-combat type, has not reached the threshold of special moves. You can try to develop into an auxiliary or healing system soul master. For pillows, you can develop into sleeping, dreaming, etc. Okay, next one. One classmate after another went up, but the results were not satisfactory. Most of them are white Horcruxes, and they don't even have much second-level blue quality. Even those with blue quality are mostly not combat type. More than a dozen classmates passed by, but none of them got a special recruitment spot from the Tianbing Mansion. But Feng Shi knew that this was normal. The grades of Horcruxes from low to high are divided into ordinary white, high-quality blue, high-quality cyan, top-grade purple, top-grade red, and golden innate holy weapons. The vast majority of ordinary people's Horcruxes when they first awaken are white, with a few blue and cyan being very rare. Generally speaking, among the white Horcruxes, those that are obviously weapon-type Horcruxes have already reached the minimum special move standard. For non-weapon-type Horcruxes, it is hard to say. It depends on functionality. Generally speaking, no one expects their Horcrux to be of high grade. They are satisfied as long as it is a weapon. But even so, many people fail to be selected every year, which shows that the probability is low. But having said that, everyone knows it, but other students are not as open-minded as him. Seeing that so many people in front of them failed, the students who didn't take their turn became more and more nervous. Fortunately, a white-grade sickle Horcrux finally came out. After thinking about it for a while, Mr. Liu chose to give him a pass, which made the boy jump with joy. The other students cast envious glances, and thus regained a little confidence. Time passed little by little, and soon it was Feng Shi and Ling Feng's turn. Next, Ling Feng. The head teacher's voice sounded, and Ling Feng stood up immediately. After looking at Feng Shi, he took a deep breath and strode to the podium. "I've met Mr. Liu. Well, let's get started." The aura fell between his eyebrows and merged into it. The next moment, a cyan light that was far brighter than other students burst out from his body, causing everyone to exclaim. "Cyan! It's cyan! Has a blue high-grade Horcrux finally appeared? I remember that no matter what type of cyan Horcrux it is, it can get a quota for special recruitment, right? Even if it's just a piece of paper. I'll go. This is so lucky." Amidst the exclamations of the students, a rather exquisite pistol appeared and fell into Ling Feng's hand. The students exclaimed again, and even Mr. Liu showed an unexpected expression, his eyes gradually showing surprise. Is it not only a cyan Horcrux, but also a rare type of long-range weapon? This is already a genius. I never expected to find such a good seedling today. You are listening to it in Eugene Light Novels.